tonight to see if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly!
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant.
Judgment, Austin.
Chloe, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinin.
You mean shining?
Shh! You wanna get sued?
Judgment, Austin.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a running. But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Hey, yo, boss. I love it when he does that.
everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here, coming at you with another raw narrative. It's so good to see all of you guys tonight. Thank you for being here. Show Poodles, thank you so much. That is so sweet of you. Little Miss Sharon, so good to see you. And Ann Reynolds. I saw about a storm. Ann Reynolds, is it storming by you? Now, Mommin was up last night and she was in a storm. Now Ann's got a storm. My goodness. It's rained a little bit here, but not too bad. They said there was a hurricane, but I better not speak too soon. Knock on wood. Either way, I see Kelly Holcomb. Good to see you, Kelly Holcomb, in Town Chat Cafe. Tina Girl and Suzanne. Good to see you guys. And I hope you all are having a great day today. Thank you so much for hitting the like button, Suzanne. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Lori. Hey, Holly S. Good to see you. Yeah, it's so good to see all you guys. Come on in. Welcome in everybody that's here. Tonight, I wanted to go over this because I think it's really interesting. So I was listening to one of the news clips, and I didn't get a chance to pull it in. I was working on something for tomorrow's show. But hey, Kai Kai, good to see you. And then I wanted to bring it in because I think, I want to bring this in because I do think that maybe the heat being put on by the two YouTubers, so Sheila and Fred, and they have, I think their last name is McCoy, but either way, it's Hatfield McCoy Adventures. And so they had a date night. It's a really cute story. You guys are going to love it. I think I certainly did. And it was really cute. I was like, that's my type of date night. You know, let's go on an adventure. Let's go see if we can't. I don't know if I want to find somebody, but maybe like, I don't know, investigate something. But either way, it sounds like a lot of fun. And then, you know, they're able to get up and move around too. So that's a good thing, right? But either way, really, really cute story. And they are, you know, basically just going out looking for people. So Fred was a police officer for 40 years. He's got 40 years experience. His wife, I'm not sure if she is a teacher or a mom, definitely a mom, I guess I should say. I know that for sure. But just a really sweet lady. And, you know, they're right there together just trying to figure this out. They did find someone else. And, you know, again, I don't know that I would want to come up on something like that. Hey, Churchy, good to see you. So I don't know if I would want to do that part. I don't think I would enjoy that on a date night, but I would enjoy, you know, just kind of, you know, sleuthing around. That's what I like to do. So, but I thought it was really cool. Hey, Cinderella, that they were able to kind of put a tip in, and this was corroborated, in my opinion, by this news clip. And I'm gonna find it. I'll either play it on the day show or tomorrow, but it's a short part of the news conference that they had at the presser, and they said that they did respond to a tip, right? And I believe it was these people. So I'm just gonna say that. Just to kind of disclaimer the show, my opinion, I really think they did a job well done. And either way, they were spending time, having a good time, got some exercise in, although they're going to show what type of terrain that little Jayden would have had to go through had he just decided to take off, right? I don't think he did that. These children that grow up around there, they know the dangers of the woods. They understand. I know a lot of them probably know to go with, you know, others out there. I'm not saying that some kids don't like to go out into the woods by themselves. They do. But either way, I really believe that they would know the area. Now, Jayden did only move in with his biological mother. To my knowledge, he wasn't there very long, right? He wasn't there very long at all. I'm guessing maybe a month. I'm just going to guess that. On a, you know, pure guesstimation, but not very long at all. And honestly, I don't know. We're going to get into that too more tomorrow, but I really don't know how this transpired with the ants. I'm very curious about that. But before we talk about that, I would like to go over this interview. And it was JLR who did the interview, and it's this other channel. So if you could, mods, it's called. Gosh, this is why I need to get a link tree or some. We got to get a Discord or something, but it's going to be a channel called Hatfield McCoy Adventures, and it's a cute little couple. You'll see them on there, and they're right here on the background. And also, that's Felicia's newest mugshot. Unfortunately, I mean, it's just terrible. We were talking earlier. I do believe that there is some bruising to her face. I was thinking it looks like an abscess. That's the first thing I thought of, because you can see her lower jawline is really bulged out. And I thought, well, maybe she's got a bad tooth, something like that. But then I looked up at her cheekbones, and I'm looking at her other cheekbone, and I'm thinking that also looks swollen compared to the other side of her face. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't have sympathy for her situation when it comes to domestic violence. Two things can be true at one time, right? She's an awful person who took the life of this beautiful child, right? She did confess to that so far, and has been charged. She has said that this is an accident, though, if I'm looking at the charges correctly, which I think I am. And so, yes, she was probably abused by this idiot right here. He's like I don't know what he does for a living or what, but he's, in my opinion, an idiot and a jerk, especially if he did that to her face. And that isn't just, from whatever. But I think that could exist here. And look, I think it's going to get way worse as things come out. I don't see it getting any better from here. And really, the best part is that Jayden was found. That's the best part, and that's really all we need to know. But I also think it's important to discuss the other children, and they'll get into this as well, and then we'll get more in depth with it, because of course I slow jammed some clips. We're going to go over the micro expressions, but we won't do that until tomorrow's show. So without further ado, I think I will look at the chat really quick and see if you guys have anything, and then I'm going to go ahead and start our clips tonight, because there's some interesting elements here and what they find. Also, I wanted to say that they spoke with Felicia and Joshua, right? The parents in the household, they're married. Joshua is not the biological father of Jayden, right? And so he's a stepdad, I suppose. I mean, he didn't know them. His grandmother just passed away in May, and that was his person that took care of him. So there's that. But let me go ahead and we'll play this first clip here. Oh, and I also want to show you guys the age progression for Summer Wells as well. But we'll do that after.
Sheila and Fred. Hey guys, how are you?
Hi.
Hey.
Thanks for coming in. So the Hatfields and McCoys, if everyone that's watching are not familiar with Fred and Sheila and Fred, these two individuals found the body of Joseph Couch, London, Kentucky, Laurel County. Remember the case of Joseph Couch? And they went out there and they were, searching for days, and then they found the body. And just in the last couple of days, you went out there to Jackson, Kentucky area to look for Jayden. You guys went out there. You guys went to the home. Sorry I have to bring you on under bad circumstances.
Yeah.
Well, at least he's not suffering.
At least he's not suffering. It has been confirmed that through the family, Samantha Brunty, I guess she is the aunt of Jayden. Did you guys get to meet her? Samantha?
No, we didn't meet her.
No.
No,
Okay.
we met his mother and his stepfather.
Okay. Yeah, she's saying rest in peace. And now the rumor mill's starting to circulate and posts are going on saying that the body has been found in an area called Canoe, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And we
Sure.
talked a little bit. That's pretty far away from where the mother and father, the stepdad, reported him missing, right?
Right.
Yeah, Canoe is where the grandmother was living, and that's where Jayden had been living up until May when she passed away. And then evidently they've returned him to his mother.
So sad. Now you both were out there all day yesterday, right? Searching?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's correct.
share with the viewers like what it was like. We'll link the video that you guys posted on your own site, Hatfield and McCoy Adventures, right? And you guys posted, you went to the house, you spoke with the parents and everything, right?
Yes.
That's correct. We left out early yesterday morning, and we got there, and our plans were to search behind the trailer and on both sides of the trailer in the hollow. The trailer sitting in a hollow. When we got there, we backed in across the road in a little wide spot, got out and put our boots on, and our intentions was to go that direction. In fact, to begin with, I went to the house and knocked on the front porch, then went around back and knocked. Nobody came to the door.
Right.
I didn't see no curtains moving, didn't hear nobody walking. As a former police officer, you usually can hear somebody in the house peeking out the window. So we didn't think nobody was home, but I come back to the vehicle and told Sheila, there's no trespassing signs, so we'll park and go ahead and start searching. If somebody gets mad at us for searching their property, trying to find their son, then that may be a clue.
Red flag.
A red flag.
Major.
And so we backed in across the road, putting our boots on, and are you still there?
Yeah, we're here. We got some of your footage that we put out here.
Okay. And we noticed a bag of clothing there, kids' clothing, and that really alarmed us. That really, that was suspicious. And so we went up the hill where the clothing was, thinking maybe, just maybe, everybody always looks at the parents. That's natural. That's what we should do. And this is the reason why, because a lot of the times it's the parents who's the perpetrator of something like this. And Sheila and I searched the hillside, and when we come back off the hill from searching, we sat down at the wood line, and we was looking at the trailer, and we said, well, we'll sit here and rest. And we're filming for our YouTube channel, and said, we'll sit here and watch the trailer for a little while and just see if anybody comes out, if anybody was in there. And a few minutes later, here pulls a pickup truck up and goes around back, parks all the way in the back behind the trailer.
Yep.
So Sheila and I are both filming at this time, and she's watching the front door. I'm watching the back. She says they're out back, and we look, and it's Felicia, the mother, and Josh, the stepfather, and they've got a small child with them.
It looks like law enforcement right there.
That's the only one we passed or saw the whole day.
Right.
Yeah, that's the only one we saw or passed, and he was coming out of the holler. And so we're sitting there at the wood line watching the house, and they see our vehicle, and Josh starts pointing over towards the hill. Whether he saw us or whether he was just pointing that somebody's up on the hill, we don't know. But after a few minutes, I hollered at him and said, Josh, it's Fred and Sheila McCoy, was looking for Jayden. And he said something to effect, glad you are, or something. And I said, well, that's the response that a person would expect that you would be, And I said, we found a bag of clothing down here, children's clothing. And he said, yeah, the state police put them there.
There's the house.
Exactly.
There's the house. The trailer, it's the last one. You told me offline it was the second to last one in the back of the holler.
Yeah, they live almost at the end of the holler. In fact, I'm going to back up, and I pull up the holler, we do, and we turn around in a wide spot at the last house on the holler just to see where we was at. And we come back down. That's when we stop and go into his trailer. And, of course, nobody came to the door.
Right.
And so when they came to the back door and I hollered and told them about the clothing there, he said, yeah, that's Jayden's. The state police dropped that off there. And he said something about some mow. I couldn't hear him good. And I said, we're coming off the hill. We'd like to talk to you. He said, well, I've got just a minute. I'll talk to you for a minute.
Okay, guys. So a lot in this clip, and we're going to come back to some of the things in the clip as well. Hey, Couponing, good to see you. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom, I see is here too. Thank you for being here. Hey, where's Summer? Good to see you. Oh, okay. I didn't hear anything about the tip. So there's a tip that just came in today about a man that called in about a bad smell. Oh, interesting. Now, is this in Jayden Spicer's case? Because I know we were talking about a couple of cases before the clip. Good to see you, Shadow. Hey, Sasha. Sorry, guys. I got a little behind in chat there while I was playing the clip. So, basically, we have a couple of elements here. They're going to talk about the clothes more in a little bit. So we're going to actually see the clothes that were across the road. So when they pull up and they're facing the trailer, that is their trailer that belongs to the Gross family. And that's their last name. And so the Gross family has this trailer, and right across the street where they're going to park, they found this bag of clothes, and you'll see it. They're going to unpack everything. And there's a couple of things that I kind of thought of when I saw this. Interestingly enough, earlier today, Lisa B. Always had said that she thinks that those clothes may have been clothes that were kept in the tote, put in the tote whenever Jayden moved in with his mother. And I thought, very well could be. Very well could be. Some of them looked a little bit older. Like there's a pair of boots, and it looked like they had been worn. I mean, not to the max or anything like that. You really had to look because they're brown, and you got to kind of really look. And when I zoomed in, I noticed, oh yeah, those are a little bit worn, but too small for Jayden, in my opinion. And you'll see he kind of flips the tongue open on the shoe, so you could, on the boot, and so you can see the size. And feel free to zoom in. This will be kind of more interactive because there's a lot in these videos that were taken. And again, shout out to this channel. They did an amazing job, just an amazing job. So we have 10-year-old Jayden from Kentucky, right? He just goes poof at 9 p.m. and then they go to wake him up for school and he's not there, right? Same scenario as Sebastian, so it's not so hard to follow, in my opinion. Oh, okay. Where Summer says there was another tip that was called in, a bad smell across the street from him early that morning, and that's when the law found him that same day. I believe it was the man that called it in. Oh, okay. That's interesting. I know that there was a tip called in. There was definitely a tip called in. And, I'm convinced that these people were probably pooping themselves. I would be. If I had guilty knowledge, or if I had done something like this to my child and just buried them somewhere, I would be pooping myself if somebody was asking about the exact location. I just would be. I couldn't keep my cool. I would probably pull a Katie Proudfoot and hide somewhere, because I would not be okay. I would not be good at hiding that at all. I just, and they're going to talk about that too, because this is what's interesting about these people is, like I said, this guy's got 40 years of law enforcement experience. His wife is, hanging out with him in his retirement, and enjoys the same things as he does. And there's no doubt in my mind that if they would have went over there, they would have found Jayden. No doubt in my mind. They didn't end up going that day, is the thing, because law enforcement did. So, I did not hear anything about anybody calling in that sort of a tip. But if you want, I have an email. It's ladyfreedomsrawnarratives@gmail.com. Just send it over to me and I'll play it, because I need to find the other clip anyway that I watched. I just didn't save it. Oh, no worries. Perfectly imperfect boy, Mom. I'm glad you're here. I just seen that today. Find Summer's Army says, where Summers says, I just seen that today about the man that called in the tip around the bad smell. Okay. See, I watched one. Well, I believe it was the presser. I'm pretty sure it was, where they said someone called in a tip to the area. But then I thought there was a news clip as well. And it might have been that in the news clip, because I've watched a lot of them. I've watched a lot. Hey, Linda Hall. Good to see you. Yeah, Jayden's case. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Where's Summer. Thank you. I don't think law enforcement would put all of the clothes in a bag. That doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah, Tina Girl, no, I don't think so either. No, they would not put them all in a bag. And then also, they weren't even, the boots are kind of really small for his age, right? And then his height as well. And then there were a couple of coats, like we'll see there was several pieces of clothing. And like I said, all clean. They weren't they were not moldy, in my opinion. Now, you know, I did write that down because that's going to be a big one, because that guy was really like adamant, like, hey, they were not moldy. And they got really good video of it as well. And then also on their channel, they've uploaded all their videos. So definitely go check them out. Let's see. What else did I write down about this that I was... I thought it was really interesting that they were talking about how whenever they came upon Josh and the wife, right? And they were saying, we're here just looking for Jayden, you know, we're looking for him. Because I mean, he goes up to the property, and you'll see, and he just very nonchalant, you know, hey, we're here looking for Jayden. And the stepfather says, I'm glad you are. And so he was like, okay, checkbox, that's a good thing, right? That's a good sign. I thought that was really interesting. He said, because if they didn't want them searching, or if they were upset or gave any kind of like an attitude, it would have been like a major clue or a red flag for him, right? 40 years in law enforcement, and he's like, this is wrong, right? So Katie and Chris made an all-star appearance in the video. I know Chris thinks he's a rock star, and that, you know, everybody comes here to see him and stuff. But I put him in there because it's a huge red flag for me. It's a huge red flag for Katie. Again, we don't see them searching. We see them getting upset with searchers. We see them threatening people left and right. This guy, 40 years in law enforcement, thinks that is a huge red flag. And so do I, right? So, and he talks about the parents being the first ones to be looked at, because a lot of times it does end up being the parents, statistically speaking. Those are numbers. Numbers don't lie, right? Let's see. Yep. And then, yeah, Jayden's Grammy raised him. So, you know, again, he might not know the area as well, but he also lived about 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away. I've seen kind of differences in that regard, but I think it was like 19 miles or something like that. Either way, not terribly far away, familiar with Kentucky. It's not like he moved from California to Kentucky, or from a city to Kentucky. No, he's from Kentucky. I think that's it. I think that's all I have for that clip. But, you know, a lot to unpack. We'll see more with these clothes, because these clothes, it is weird, Tina girl. Again, I'm going back to what you said. It's odd. And that's the thing. Why not call for help if the child needs help? If you OD'd the child, why wouldn't you call for help? Because that's accidental, unless you purposely OD'd the child, right? And we talked about that earlier. We talked about how it almost seems like it is very intentional, in my opinion, because, you know, a couple, Bullhorn Betty even said something earlier today too, said a couple of pills is, you know, a little bit too much, but if you give them 4 or 5, I mean, that's deliberately ODing, you know, a child, in my opinion, or anybody for that matter. I would never take like 5 times the amount of a recommended dose, right? I would never take 2 times of a recommended dose, you know, unless my doctor said, if you're not feeling good, you know, take another half of whatever. Like, I've had that happen. But Suzanne says, hasn't it also been said that they found the buried pew pew? Yeah, they did, Suzanne. That's kind of what they're known for. They found, you know, the whole scene apparently. And I have to go back and watch, because I'm not familiar at all with that. And I did think it was really interesting that that's what they kind of like to do for fun, you know. And I think they're getting to the point where they're a little bit more wanting to be more laid back. But I wish that they would, you know, examine cases like, you know, because I don't think they ever heard of Summer's case. It seems to me that they didn't. There's a video on Facebook of the man that called him the bad smell. Okay, now where is it on Facebook though? Like, is it in one of those groups? That's the only thing. I might have to get a link. Tina says probably because she was over medicating and knew, or excuse me, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mama says because she was over medicating and knew she would be guilty. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, again, I don't feel like, or I don't really think that you can over medicate someone unintentionally, right? Unless it's like you truly don't know the dosage and you just like say fill the dropper all the way up and just like slam it, you know what I mean, or something like. But why would you do that? Like, I don't know. Yeah, and she's a mother. Like mother, okay, guys, we know. We totally know what it's like to have to go do the little dropper thing and pull the tab, pull the plunger and then, make sure it goes, 1 cc, 2 cc, whatever. I mean, like that lady has too many kids to pretend like she doesn't know how to administer medicine to children. Also, I turned myself into Cinderella. I'd feel horrible. I'd be pooping my pants if those guys came to me and they're like, so does Jayden have, a propensity to go over to the cemetery since his grandma's passed away and stuff like that because he's sad? And like, she's probably like, because it was pretty close, I guess, in the area over there. So, yeah, I would be just like, uh-oh, and I think it pushed them to say something. The pressure was on, right? Whether it was a bad smell, somebody got a tip about that. Then we have these fine people who called in another tip. These tips, right? They're working with law enforcement. They didn't keep this to themselves for content. Oh no. They called this in too. So whether it was like all these tips coming in about this and people being like, hey, this isn't right. This is what we need to do in all of these cases. We shouldn't ever let these children go until they're found because someone knows something about what happened to them. If I hear one more time that a child disappeared, vanished, or is just missing, I swear to God, I am going to have a fit. I'm going to have a bitch fit. Because it's bullshit. The kids just don't go, I put them to bed. I have no idea what happened to them. What do you mean you have no idea what happened to them? Unless there's a window cut open, like in Elizabeth Smart's case. No, try again. That's what I would tell them too. If I was a detective, I'd say that right to their face too. I'd say, nope, try again. Because it's nope. No way it happened like that. Kids don't, like, it's utterly impossible for someone to disappear. I cannot just disappear. You cannot just disappear. Kids cannot just disappear. Old people don't disappear. That's why we put out signs for them. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says that they smell moldy maybe. You know how you dry the clothes in the Saturday too long in the washer. Yeah, well, or when they sat too long in the washer. It did not appear that way. Like, I don't know. They looked really clean and they were kind of like in plastic. Now, maybe from like dewy weather, but it's so hot out. I don't know really Kentucky weather too well. I would imagine it's a lot like the Midwest, which I grew up in the Midwest. So I don't know, but you'll see it. Like you can really see. Now, like I said, his boots, when I looked closer, I could see, because at first I'm like, oh, that's like brand new clothes or something that they may have used like for the school vouchers that she had. It's alleged that she had gotten a lot of vouchers, Mrs. Gross did, for the kids to school, but Jayden didn't attend the open house, apparently. This is all alleged, and she did get some items that were donated, for the kids. And so I was like, maybe they threw his away or something like that. But I'm leaning more towards they were items that he already had from his grandmother's house. And the fact that they were sending him shoes that were too small for him, again, I have a lot of questions. And we'll get into that tomorrow. I don't believe that this boy was well taken care of after his grandmother passed away at all. God only knows what happened to this child. I'm just going to put it that way because it's going to get worse. I have a feeling anyway. Hey, Mima, good to see you. Or Mima, good to see you. look up News Lexington 18. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, News Lexington. I subscribed, Find Summer, to all of, or excuse me, Where Summer, to all of these Kentucky Kentucky channels, just to see, kind of, keep up on it. Lady Freedom Justin played that video today that Where Summer is talking about. Oh, okay, hold on, let me see. Hey, C. Taylor. I just saw. Okay, Mods, can you please let her know that the video is on? Oh, yes, I saw you. Sorry, sorry, Where Summer. I always go back to the comments, but a lot of times I'm just up here talking away. I really believe that after the autopsy is done and it proves cause and manner, her charges will be upgraded. Just my opinion, and we shall see soon. Yeah, I'm really hoping that happens, because I don't think it could have been an accident. No, I just don't. I think it would be more believable if he just came to the house and it was an accident, that she gave him too much, I guess is maybe, because I do know about the melatonin. You can OD on melatonin, but again, I mean, you're not going to give the child 7 gummies, and because that they're too little, and he's tall, for 10, I think. I don't know, but C. Taylor says they actually went to look for Sebastian a few days. It's the first of their live streams. Oh, who did? What is it? Silvers, Mr. and Mrs. Silvers. I must have missed it there. C. Taylor. Or are you talking about these two up here? Hey, Carla. That would be really cool. Okay, Justin. Okay, so I was, thanks, Chuchi. I was talking to, earlier I had been watching a lot of stuff, but I was bouncing around back and forth, and I did catch like maybe 20 minutes of Justin's, but it was when I was getting ready. I was just listening in my earbuds. Oh, Linda Hatfield left a message. I'll check it, Miss Ann. Oh, of course, it's kicked me off the darn internet. Always does that. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, your chat's working, Carla. Hey, Steph. Good to see you. Hatfield McCoy looked for Sebastian. Oh, awesome. Really? That's wonderful. C. Taylor, I'm just saying, if they think that he still walked off and went into the woods someplace or is around his house, the police should be at least looking in there. I don't know why they're not. But then again, when we see a story like this, I mean, who knows? He really could be somewhere around the vicinity of his home. Sebastian, that is. Okay, so I'm going to play this next clip for us. Here, I want to make sure I got the right one. Okay, here we go.
We come off the hill and we had our phones in our pockets. And it's actually hard to hear. She tried to put text on the video, but
yeah,
looking back now, since all this has come full circle, we asked some pretty interesting questions probably to them too. Mm-hmm. First, we explained that we were the ones that found Joseph Couch after a 14-day search. And we asked about the grandmother, where she was buried at.
Yep.
We asked about whether Jayden had taken it hard his grandmother passing. We asked, is there a chance Jayden may have gone back to the cemetery or gone to the grandmother's house?
Which was in Canoe, right? Canoe.
Which
yes.
is in Canoe, exactly.
Okay, so yeah, looking on the map, Canoe was about, it looks like about a 20-minute drive to the south.
Sure. That's what we figured.
Yeah.
That's what we figured. And you could see the mother, she didn't say, she let Josh do the talking, except the one time there, me or Sheila one asked, where is the grandmother?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
I asked her, she said Canoe, and I said, what? And she said Canoe. I said, where is that at? Because I thought they were just down the street. And he said, no, it's too far for a child to go.
Somebody would have had. There I am walking up to the trailer, and I'll knock at the front door, and then I knock at the back. Now there's a dog on the porch barking forever. Yeah, and that was one of the questions we asked them. So why didn't the dog follow Jayden when he left?
Yeah.
During the night, that was one of the questions we had.
Was that dog leashed? Was it on a leash?
No.
We don't leash. Eastern Kentucky,
yeah,
they run.
He was running free
at large. He's But when we ask about the cemetery, where is the cemetery? Where was the grandmother buried? The mother answered that question, and it seems like she said Halls, Halls, Halls Cemetery. And it's a funny thing, and I don't know how much of this is true and not true, but somebody said, and it very well could be a rumor, that maybe he was buried near the cemetery where she was at and so forth. And it's funny because Sheila and I talked going up that hill when we went looking for Sebastian. We searched the cemetery down there that's joining the property, the big subdivision. And we looked at a couple of graves because what better place to bury somebody than in a freshly dug grave of somebody else? The dirt's already broken up.
Yep.
Nobody thinks nothing. What are they going to do? Run a sonar over?
They kind of thought the same way with Summer Wells too. Across the street where Summer Wells went missing.
Really?
Deep Creek area, there's a cemetery there. And people speculated that put Summer Wells at a cemetery. She still has not been found either.
Sure.
Wow.
And we talk about that. And another thing that we could tell, and we didn't want to say that on the video. You don't want to falsely. I had a saying when I was a police officer, I'd rather let a guilty party go as to ever charge an innocent person. If they're guilty, you'll get them again. But once you accuse somebody of something, it's this old saying, innocent till proven guilty. Once you're accused, you're guilty the rest of your life.
Yeah.
People don't forget that. It's going to go on. So we didn't want to accuse nobody or falsely accuse. And finding those clothing, we thought, well, maybe there's a chance he was going to run away. But now that we look back and we was telling him about our website, our YouTube channel, and about us finding Joseph Couch. He said he hadn't heard about that.
You guys were live when you found him.
Yeah, and he said he hadn't heard about it, and we told him, well, go watch the video, go watch the YouTube channel. And when we left there, we went to McDonald's, and we come back, and when we come back, they got in their vehicle and left. But I have a feeling during that time that they have watched. We want to think that way. We want to think that we had something between some of the questions we asked and between that first video that we made live on our way up there, where we're talking about Kentucky has the death penalty. And the death penalty gives police officers something to play with, to bargain with.
Leverage.
The barter. You want to make a deal, and there's two of you involved, somebody's going to talk. You might want to be the one that takes the deal. So
yeah,
that's what
he also told him that if he was out there, we would find him.
we're
going to find that boy.
We told him we're going to find him. Good Lord's going to lead us, and we're going to find Jayden. And we talked about Canoe, and we talked about the cemetery. We talked about the mobile home where the grandmother, or where she lived. He said it was a trailer. He said that Jayden's clothing had come from the trailer. We asked what they were doing on the side of the road. He said law enforcement had dropped them there, that they had mow on them. And Sheila and I go back in that video and open the bag up to show the clothing. There was no mow. They was fresh clothes.
It's weird that they would just put clothes out there, but you said that's what they said that the police told them to do, or just put them out there, or the police put it out there?
Well, we called. The next thing we done is went where we had a signal. The only place that was is McDonald's. And we called the state police, and Sheila, it's on that video there. Sheila taped, because when we was looking for Joseph Couch, we also went to the state police and told them, and I feel you, she's bumping me on the leg, sore spot with me, but we told them nobody wanted to hear us about our birds and bodies and dead things, and until the body was found, then everybody was there to take credit. But
so there we go. So I do believe in following, like, maybe the turkey buzzards and stuff like that, because those things always find things to eat that have expired. You know what I mean? I can see that being a smart strategy. Although it could just be like random things like roadkill or something like that. So really quick, guys, I just want to show you Summer Wells' age progression, since they introduced that in the clip. And I saw a side by side, and I think the one thing that I wish they would have made maybe her cheekbones just a little bit higher. I don't know. I'm looking at it. I keep looking back and forth at it. We talked a little bit earlier today, but I think that they always do a really good job, like the forensic artists that make up these photos for age progression. They always do a great job. Like usually they're always on target. Um, so this is Summer Wells's age progression, and she would have been 10 years old. Um, so she's still out there somewhere missing. And Dawn and Candace are both people too that like get upset when people want to search or talk about Summer. Really upsets stalker types when you talk about Summer. Really creepy. People start coming out of the woodwork. It's terrible for her because she doesn't deserve that. But here's another picture of Summer that I like because it's on a billboard, and there's also a $500,000 reward out for any information on Summer Wells through At Night. Also, here's another picture of Summer Wells and her mother Candace, where Summer Wells, and there's her picture. So she's just as cute as she could be. I don't know, but she's got like those just higher cheekbones, I guess, than in the photo. But I'm just trying to picture her in my mind's eye as older as well. So it's so difficult. But either way, she is adorable and loved by many, many people. I've done shows on Summer Wells, and people have come in from everywhere just to watch something on Summer Wells. So I have to give so much love and respect to all of you guys that have been on YouTube following her, because I was on mainstream with Summer. I didn't really watch anything on YouTube. I have no idea, the fuckery that ensued during her case. I've just seen the residual effects, and I don't care for it. It's the same in Sebastian's. I feel sorry for him, but I know that people are so passionate. But I just also think that, again, when parents don't want attention or exposure on their missing child, it's a huge red flag to me. It's a huge red flag. We went over Don's statements here. It makes you want to throw up. C. Taylor says 100% believe that they found Couch first. Yeah, so that's so cool that you said that, C. Taylor, because that's kind of, what I was going into with this. So they literally go up to these people. Okay, this is their story, right? Like, I'm just going by their story, but I think it's a really interesting one, right? So they said that they went up to the house. They asked about grandma, right? Where's grandma buried? And how did Jordan take her, passing away? And of course, he's not going to probably take it great, right? Nobody's going to take that great. It's like losing a mother. And then going to live with your evil mother, So again, I see a major reason for motive, like right in there, and they're asking these questions because that's really what I'm leaning towards, is that Jayden was misbehaving and acting out, probably beside himself, was probably having a really hard time transitioning and just missing his grandma, and they weren't giving him any type of leeway, no type of, care, compassion, or anything like that. And, the environment was probably a very bad one if I'm judging from Felicia's face. And that is in fact something that happened as a result of DB, which I think it very well could have. Let's see. Also, they straight up said, hey, we found Joseph Couch, right? So we found this guy out here. We're just looking for Jayden. You're in good hands, right? But to somebody who has guilty knowledge and who actually carried this horrific ordeal out, right? Because, they had to take Jayden's life, right, in some form or fashion. And then they had to take him and do something to conceal what happened, right? It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of energy and all of that. But imagine standing there and knowing all this, and they're saying this, like, hey, we found this guy, and by the way, where's the grandma buried, and where does she live? And, by the way, she lives in Canoe, where he was found. And then they talk about then they talk about Old Sparky, right? The DP. So Old Sparky and the DP comes into play. I would be pooping my pants. Like, I would literally be beside myself, not knowing what to do. Like, oh shit, here we go. How long have you been in law enforcement, sir? And you're gonna find out some more weird behaviors that they didn't appreciate as well. But yeah, I think all of it culminated. But I want to see the clip too, because I have not watched that clip, and it wasn't. I was watching Jack and Lily, as a matter of fact. I was not watching coverage on Jayden tonight on Justin's channel. So Carla says I probably will have to go to bed pretty soon. Have a driver. Oh my goodness, to Denver to pick up my daughter. Well, that's great. I hope you have a great time with your daughter, Carla. Yeah, I'm glad you guys are here anytime you're able to make it. And C. Taylor says Summer would be Jayden's age right now, right? Yeah, 10. Yeah, because unless she had a birthday, I'm not sure if she did, but it was, the anniversary of 4 years, and she was 6, so that's why I'm just guessing a roundabout. But I'm gonna do a video on Summer. I'm gonna do a tribute to her with this new age progression. That's kind of why I was wanting to get some of this other stuff done for tomorrow. No, they didn't have any empathy for him at all. I felt so sorry for him. It's terrible. And then just realizing that they're calling him hyper, and they're calling, it's always him. But it's like, did you guys think for a minute that he might be really going through it right now? And maybe he needs a little bit of extra attention. Also, parks, things like that are great, but they have this big, large outdoor area, but they have nothing for the kids to do. Again, go to your room, get out of here, go watch TV. I don't know why they're so hyper. It's because they don't go outside and play ever. Oh, okay. Oh, really? The same as Cobra? Oh my gosh, that guy. I've been watching a little bit of stuff. Oh, congratulations to Olivia too. Olivia is expecting a baby, and she's married to Kaylee Gonzalez's brother. And I hope I said their last name correctly. But really a cute couple, and I watched a couple of their short videos the other day. So really, really cute. And I think it shows that there's a silver lining. And even when it's the worst situation ever. Couponing. Take care of that kitty. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play this next clip for us, guys.
We notified the state police dispatcher at Post 13.
Yeah.
We told him we was up there looking for Jayden. We found a bag of clothing. We talked to the parents. As far as I know, we're the only people, which they told us they had lawyers then.
Yeah.
And was not supposed to talk. Didn't want us filming them, but we verbally.
They told you they lawyered up.
They lawyered up. And they said that the lawyer advised them not to talk to nobody, but I'm a fast talker. There's that bag of clothing. We actually thought it was trash when we first. And there's a piece of paper in there.
Some of these questions are rhetorical because I already know the answer because we talked a little bit offline. I'm just trying to share with the viewers some of the stuff that's been put out there. But they lawyered up. I have the name of the lawyer that they got. They apparently retained a lawyer in town, Jackson, just below. Because how far do they live from the town of Jackson?
Probably 5-10 minutes drive.
It's like literally you go up into the mountain, more or less, right? The hill there.
Well, they're at the base now. There's a curve that goes on around from what's it called? Hambo. The curve goes on around, and it may go up there. What we were on, we turned off and went down into the holler where they're at.
Yeah.
So there's not a big incline or a hill to climb to get to where they're at in the Hambo Branch Holler Road.
So you guys are out there. They come home.
Mm-hmm.
Stepdad, another child, the mom. They're pointing up you're across the street. I guess they see your vehicle because your vehicle's there. They're pointing up in the hills, and then you holler down at them and say, "Hey, can I talk to you?" Or what's going on?
Yeah, we hollered and said, "It's Fred and Sheila McCoy." I said, hey, Josh. And he said, yeah, who is that? And I said, Fred and Sheila McCoy. We're looking for Jayden. And he said, glad you are, or something to that effect. And I said, that would be the response I would hope to get from you. And he said, yeah, of course. And we said, we're coming down to talk to you. And we got down there. And again, he didn't want to be videoed, but we had the audio going, both of us.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is, it's where it's in our pocket. It's real hard to understand, but we know what was said. And we were more or less looking for expressions. We were looking at body language.
Body language.
Exactly. We were trying to see, and the mother, Sheila, really picked up on the mother as far as a mother,
She didn't have any emotion at all. She wasn't upset. I didn't feel like. She looked at me the one time that we shook hands.
She wouldn't look at Sheila, and I think that was where it was a mother on mother. She just would not. She looked at
like she looked down, away while she was talking.
She looked at him and she looked at me.
Right.
Huh.
She more or less ignored, because Sheila asked about the trailer, about where her mother lived, and about the cemetery. We were both talking, but we was interested in the cemetery because we asked if it had affected him with his grandmother dying, because that's who he's been living with for the last few years. And Josh said, of course, yeah, he was definitely affected by the death.
Up to what point, though? Like what? Like I'm a little confused with that. The grandmother died in the springtime.
She died in May, I believe.
May. And then, but Jayden was living with the grandmother for all these years.
Yeah, I think.
How long? Since he was a baby?
I think he'd been there for estimates. Somebody had told us this. We talked to people. We talked to other people just in passing and asked them if this is where the little boy's missing from, and we'd bring up topics and people would to see if they knew anything when we was at different places. But I think the grandmother had him for 4 or 5 years, maybe even 6. I think I asked her, has he been living with the grandmother for 6 years? And I'm thinking they said yes. So he said that it did affect him. He said, of course, it did affect him, her death. And I said, or Sheila did, do you think he'd be at the cemetery or at the grandmother's home? Did he miss her? Maybe he run. Again, at this time, there's 2 things that could have happened. The child's run off, or something's happened to him. Now, Sheila and I both, Sheila, first of all, says, why would he run into the hills unless somebody was chasing him and he was in fear? If he was running away, he wouldn't run to a dead end up a hill. So that was the first thing. The second thing, the note that she wrote and said, do the right thing, or whatever it was. Who's she talking to? Surely not Jayden. If he run off, do the right thing, she's telling somebody. And
it was I don't even think that was her handwriting. What did the mom actually write that? Because it looked, I'm no disrespect, but it looked like a kid wrote that.
Sure, we don't know. But JR, there was a piece of paper in that plastic right there. There's a piece of notebook paper exactly like what she wrote that note on. Now, she told us, or he did, that the state police or law enforcement had brought that and dropped it off there beside the road. Why? I don't know. And the reason we advertised that so much and why we called the state police is that was so odd that if they didn't do it, that gives them a red flag, something to go back and question them by, because they're on tape saying it, to go back and say, hey, you told 2 YouTubers that we dropped them clothing off. Well, you told them YouTubers that your son wasn't in school because of this. And so everything that we could gather from them may give somebody else some information to go back. But there's a piece of notebook paper in there that's got a sleeve over it, a plastic sleeve. Nobody's touched. We touched the sleeve, but we didn't touch the notebook paper. Now, if they're saying that come from the grandmother's house or the state police dropped it off, then that shouldn't have Felicia's or Josh's fingerprints nowhere, or DNA or anything on that piece of paper.
Okay, guys, so I don't know if it was going to rain or something like that. I don't know why they would have just put it across the street from their house, and then they gave them a really weird reason, like, the police left it, the state police left it there. So really weird with the clothes, and you got to see the clothes in the beginning, right? Just, and I wrote a couple of them down that we see in there. Hey, WV Holla Girl, good to see you. So they had shorts in a Ziploc bag. They had underwear in a Ziploc bag, 2 coats, 1 black Croc, a single black Croc, like just regular run-of-the-mill black Croc. I almost said the other word. No, like, how, I don't know what they're called, but you like stick the different characters into the pegs where there's like negative space in the Crocs, and kids wear them on their Crocs nowadays. I don't know what they're called exactly. But there was none of those. They were just a plain black crock. And let's see here. We also had, a piece of paper, notebook paper, just like what Felicia wrote the letter on. I guess I don't know if I should call it pleading for Jayden to come back, or it was a letter that she had handwritten because she didn't want to talk to authorities, in my opinion, or she didn't want to talk to, the news outlets about Jayden, in my opinion. 2 hiking boots that were too small, in my opinion, and that was that, and that they found. But you saw it was like a plastic, so water could have gotten in there, in my opinion. I know we were talking about that before. So let's see here. We have no thank you when they come up. So they're like, hey, what are you doing here? We're thank you. I was gonna try to say it. Gibbets. That's funny. That's a funny word. So yeah, no gibbets, just the black crock. And let's see here. Yeah, no thank you from the stepfoot. In this case, I call them all step feet if they're acting like a jerk and they're not a good stepdad and they don't deserve to be called a stepdad, then they're a stepfoot, in my opinion. So no thank you, just like from Chris. No thank yous. Like, hey, we're searching for Sebastian. That was one of the things that stood out to me the most from Duchess for the Missings interview. Very first interview they ever did with anybody, even news outlets. They went on Duchess for the Missing podcast here on YouTube, and they said no thank yous until the very, very end. It was crickets from them. Crickets. And it was very off-putting. Even when Duchess said, thank you for being here, Chris Proudfoot says, you're welcome. Weird guy. Because you would think he would be thanking, her and kissing the ground she walked on for looking for his stepson, if he truly didn't know where his stepson was, in my opinion. And the same thing with this guy. Oh, you are? Good on you. Good, I'm glad you are. Okay, you're welcome. Also, they were interested in the cemetery, and they let Felicia and Mr. Gross know that, right? Mr. and Mrs. Gross. Definitely affected by the passing of his grandmother. I think that if they were aware of that, then they should have treated him nicer. It'd be one thing if they were completely oblivious and they had no idea that Jayden was going through anything like that. That's the only time that you would ignore something like that, right? Because you didn't know about it. Instead, you take the poor boy's life and we find him in a tote. So he was living with his grandma for about 5 or 6 years, according to what they were told by Mr. and Mrs. Gross. They did ask if he missed his grandmother and if perhaps he went to see her somehow, right? So just basically like, hey, since he was having such a hard time, would it be possible for him, in proximity, for him to have left in the middle of the night and taken off and tried to go to see her, right? But again, I think he would have maybe, made it there or something like that. And, he would have been needing some help because he would have been all the way out there, right? He probably would have banged on somebody's door, in my opinion. But it is quite the ways away. It's about a 25 minute drive. And then also the note saying, do the right thing. When I first saw the note, I thought, is she insinuating that someone else has him, or that she thinks that he may have been abducted? Or does she know somebody that may have came to take him, like maybe a dad, her ex-husband who is crazy or something like that? I'm like, okay, maybe, right? No, not at all. That's not what happened at all. I think she was projecting, or she was telling herself to do the right thing. Or possibly the husband, and he still hasn't been charged, guys, just so you know. He's scot-free and she has taken the rap. Let's see. Oh, and then they called the clothes in, right? So they're like, hey, we found these clothes to law enforcement, and told them about the conversation. They were kind of trying to catch them, and you'll hear a little bit more as they talk about it. They were trying to kind of catch them into some types of lies, right? Where maybe they told law enforcement one thing, but now they're sitting here telling, the YouTubers another thing. I think that was smart. Also, I forgot to mention, it was scrolling across the screen, but quite literally, whenever the news broke about Jayden, it wasn't through news outlets and mainstream media. It was actually on social media. And so the aunt, right, her name is Samantha Bunty, and she says, please prayer for my family and I, R.I.P. Jayden. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Because to me, I'm just like, no. Hey, Laura Arnold, good to see you. And thank you, Vulgar Display, for telling. I was still looking at that word. I better write that word down. Gibbets. No gibbets. Or there are gibbets. Croc charms. There you go. Croc charms. See, I don't know why I didn't come up with that one on my own there. Couponing. In my opinion, it was planted there by Josh and Felicia. I think so too. I think it could have been like to throw them off, right? I do think and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I saw something out there that said that they were kind of talking about it on their YouTube channel, that they were going to go out there and kind of search for Jayden. So they were kind of maybe building up to it. I think it might be in this interview. So we might see it here in a little bit, but either way, yeah, I'm pretty sure they might have, or I'm pretty sure they knew that these folks were going to come out, Sheila and Fred. Because that's just odd too. I thought it was so weird to say. I know I need to get Fred and Sheila's link couponing. I can't. If I post a link in here, I could quite possibly, terminate this entire live stream because the buttons are like this close apart from each other, and then I have the nails, and I gotta go, with my finger, which I mean, not terribly horrible, but it's like right there, and so I'm like, I don't want to push it, and then I lost you guys. Because we got more clips. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, if police left my child's stuff across the road, I mean, girl, I'd go and bring it back to hold on to. Exactly. Or I'd be like, hello, you forgot my kid's stuff across the road. Like, what are you doing? Because some people were like, well, what about for scent? But they wouldn't just leave evidence out there, and I'm just really leaning probably towards it was probably items from grandma's that they were kind of trying to discard. I don't know why they didn't do a better job of it, but again, these two seem to be on drugs or something where they're just I call it 8 up. And you just kind of see that when math is involved, not arithmetic. Arithmetic is fantastic. Math, on the other hand, bad deal. And I think it just you don't know what you're doing. You have no freaking idea what you're doing. You're twacked out of your brain. And then a lot of times too, I was saying this earlier, people that do math, they'll also do fent and to come down, right? So because I mean, it can literally drive some people insane, because if they're up way too long and they start seeing shadow people and they're scratching the hell out of each other and themselves and doing God only knows what else. 8 up is the best way to say it. Oh yeah, it's bad. It's really, really bad. It's sad. But I think they are, because why would they just put it across the street like that, right where everybody can see it? I'm you'd think that they would try to conceal it somewhat, or maybe they were just trying to get rid of it after the fact. I don't know if maybe they thought, like, you know how sometimes it'll rain, you know, you'll know it's going to rain, you know, you look at the weather, see if it's going to rain. Maybe they wanted it to get, you know, wet and stuff, because it was, you know, it's, and we'll see it again, it's on plastic, but it's not like a big plastic Ziploc bag to where it wouldn't get water in it if it rained and, you know, the area was wet. And then also even like dew, but again, I don't know what it's like in Kentucky on that. So, but here's this next clip, and I have like, oh, we have like 5 more after this, but I mean, it's all good stuff. And like I said, we really get to see the area where he went missing from, and there's just a couple of, you know, again, comparisons that I'd like to point out when it comes to Sebastian Rogers' case, because his area is wooded, but a lot more accessible than this. Like, they live in a holler, which is like in the bottom of the hills, right? So like you have hills that are, you know, like this, and then you have the hollers at the bottom, right? And so heavily wooded, and they live right at the bottom of the holler, right? So like there's like I think another house down through there, but and they did take a route around there, so you can kind of rewind and see that too.
And we thought that would be something interesting to test, to see if it would lead back to the mother or the stepfather.
That's the note right there. We put it up on the screen here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, a lot of people said, you know, people were trying to decipher through that, and people were just seeing red flags, just some of the way it was said, like, do the right thing, like who are they talking to?
Yeah, who they talking to? Who was
And
she throwing at it?
contact the Jackson Police Department, but does the Jackson Police Department even have jurisdiction where this home is, even though it's outside? Isn't it county sheriff?
I don't know how far the city limits went, JR. We don't know. They're pretty close to where the main intersection is. They got a lot of construction going on there, and looks like they're rerouting the river or something. They've got the river blocked off.
See, and then when you guys were there yesterday, one other thing that notice what's now that the body has been found today, and it appears we don't know confirmation of where the body was found, right? But what the talk is on the internet was down by Canoe. There was a heavy law enforcement presence down by Canoe, somewhere in the Canoe area where the grandmother and where the child used to live. Now, that people were in the chat, and like you said, it's like 15, 20 miles away. It's a significant distance. It's just no way in the world a 10-year-old child would just wander off and be found dead in Canoe. If the mom is claiming that the boy disappeared out of that trailer Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. It's just, I can't see a little boy navigating through the woods all the way to Canoe.
Of course. You know, that's what took us so long to, we waited a week, and we waited a week, but Sheila also, when we got there, the first thing we start looking for is birds. We didn't want to see birds, but if there's birds, or we told other people, if you see birds may be 10 miles away. If you're anywhere around Breathitt County and you see birds, don't think that may be a cow or a cat or a dog. It very well could be something else. Make sure you check it out, because if this was something that happened, they could have taken his body somewhere else, and apparently they did.
That's how you guys found Joseph Couch, in a sense, right? Follow the good Lord's birds. Because you guys found Joseph Couch, like 14 days after that incident happened, about 14 days or so?
He started shooting on the 7th, and we didn't go. That was on a Saturday. We went the following Saturday, and we started on just a date night, something to do, and something told us we were going to find him, and we kept going back day after day after day. We were going back here this evening or tomorrow. We were heading back, and we were going to stay there in fact, that's where we were going. We were going to the cemetery, and we were going to the grandmother's place of residence. That's where the two places that we wanted, and that was because of when Sheila asked, the expression on their faces and their demeanor, we felt that may have something to do. And again, Sheila told them before we left, she said, we're going to find that little boy. And so we like to think that we may have had something to do, because we were vigilant. When we went to McDonald's and called the state police and ate and started feeling a little bit better, we came back, and when we parked and got out, they got in their vehicle and they left, and they waved at us and said, look, all you want or something.
But they were nice. Like, did they have attitude?
No attitude. No, that would be a giveaway if they were guilty and had an attitude.
The Wells, I don't know if you know the Summer Wells case, but the Wells, Candace and Don Wells, are not very friendly people in person. Trust me, they're not very friendly. You know, it's like they're very hostile. Like, they don't even want people looking around their house for this child.
Well, no, we're not familiar with that one. I know you followed so many. You're so good at, commend you for, because you're so good at what you do. So, so we didn't even start for a week because we felt after we seen the note and after we heard the news, and we just knew to each other, we felt that this was something dealing with one or the other or both. Now, when we got there and we seen that bag of clothing, because again, we were searching, we were going to go directly behind that trailer and look where he may have run off to. But when we found that bag of,
high, look how high it is, Fred.
well, that's the mountains are. The mountains are, they're down in a hollow, but oh yeah, the mountains, we climbed the one there behind Sheila.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
rough.
Oh yeah, we it was rough on us.
It's what was it hot out there?
It was hot, humid. We hadn't ate that morning. We went straight from here to there, and it's a 2.5 hour drive for us. And the only reason we came back home is because they have no internet. And after we found the clothing and the state police didn't contact us back, and we just came on home so she could download that video and the other. Now, we went back after McDonald's. We went back, and again, they left. And we went on both sides of their trailer, on the hill, and in the back, and around their trailer. We found another pile of clothes, freshly dumped, clean clothing that I guess they have gotten from the grandmother's house, with expensive clothing that we assume.
Carhartt. There was a little jacket there that was brand new, and it was a Carhartt.
Thrown outside.
What, like?
So a brand new Carhartt jacket thrown outside. That is so weird to me. That is so absolutely weird to me, that they would throw something like that out there, and then also just, like he said, dump. He said there was another bunch of clothes out back that were dumped. A pile of them. You know, he also said that he got the feeling between the two of them, they both had the feeling that, you know, it was one or both of these people who were involved, right? Mr. and Mrs. Gross, one or the other or both. He did state that there was no internet out there. And then again, he stated that the police did not call him back after he put the tip in. You also see more shirts and stuff like that in the pile. So I just kind of want to point that out. And also, I also wanted to just put my own 2 cents into the matter. If he doesn't like bugs, and he did leave at the end of, and he did leave sometime during the night, I think he would have probably tried to stay on the main road. So you see how it's a very narrow road that goes down into the holler. And again, when you go down into the holler, there's only so far that you would go on the road, and then, you know, you're at the bottom of the holler, and then there's only one way to go but up, right? Always a positive in life. So just kind of wanted to put that out there, which tells me that, you know, obviously something is not okay. Hey, Scranton Strangler, good to see you. In my opinion, she looked high in her mugshot if she was going to go through it detoxing in jail. I think so, too. I do. I really do think that she looks under the influence, I should say, of something. And she's only 33. Thank you. Oh, thank you, couponing. Yay. I just think they're adorable. I think they're so cute. I mean, you know, I think it's great when people go out and do things, right? Because really the pressure. Also, I want to mention McDonald's. I forgot to mention this earlier to you guys. McDonald's was giving, not the restaurant, but the employees there were giving her, you know, the riot act, reading her the riot act because she was showing up at the McDonald's and not looking for her son. So she decided to go to Wendy's, allegedly. But, you know, either way, I think that public pressure, right? Because they're telling her, hey, you can't be out here just sitting here, not looking for your son, right? What's going on? Where's your son, right? And I think that holding each other accountable is so very important. So I just really do. Oh, thank you, Vulgar Display. Yeah, it's just like I don't understand it, and a lot of times, you know, in these cases, we'll just see these patterns of behavior, and I think people can recognize that. You know, not maybe everybody, but there's just kind of a vibe, and they were talking about that too. They were like, between us, we kind of were thinking something is going on here. Someone's not being truthful. And again, it's just the terrain around the house, because you could just see it's all, and then when they pan over, you'll see the whole layout. But when they pan over, I mean, it's just hill. You know, it really is reminiscent of the Wells property, without having seen like the back and everything like that. But they did get a chance to look around, and they did give them permission to look around. So I found that to be interesting too. Not wanting to look at another mom, that was weird too. You know, it was almost like a guilt. There's like, you know, the unspoken sisterhood, and you're being looked at like, you know, side-eyed by another mom, and you know that you did something wrong. You know, like I know people will be like, you know, some people don't have a conscience at all, and they'll talk about how cool and collective they are. But the fact that she wouldn't look at Shirley, I'm sorry, Shirley. I've been calling people the wrong names all day. This is just a day of that. Sheila, excuse me. The fact that she wouldn't look at Sheila or make eye contact with her, or she was, you know, looking away and mainly talking to Fred, which, by the way, if anybody's ever, you know, been a server at a restaurant, that's going to dwindle your tip down if you talk to the guy, right? Because the woman is the one that you should be respecting and, you know, speaking with her directly. In my opinion, my experience. Hey, Pam Roberts, good to see you. And so, you know, like that right there is weird, right? Because you would think like women would be bonding more with women and things like that too. Whole nother level though with the respect thing. You know, I don't know the ages of the kids. Sheila talks about seeing, and you'll see it in the next couple clips, because they come home and it's actually just Mr. and Mrs. Gross and what appears to be maybe like a 5 or 6 year old kid that's with them, but only one child was with them in the video. I'm not sure how old the other kids are. I would imagine they're younger. I mean, I don't know if Jayden is the oldest one, but he has 2 other sisters that were living with the grandmother that were not given back to Felicia. And so she has 3 between her and Mr. Gross. And yeah, so the other 2 girls, I'm not sure if they're younger or older than Jayden, but if Jayden's the oldest one, then they're all on down the line, you know, 10 and under. Now, if they're older, then it's whatever age that is and under. Just 6 kids within whatever, however, I mean, could be 10 years. In my opinion, I think Josh helped Felicia, and Samantha knew but didn't say anything and went along with it because she didn't want to get in trouble, because she sent Jayden back out without going to court. Yeah, and see, I'm wondering about that too, Chuchi, because what was the arrangement, you know, like what was, because according to Sheila and Fred, Mr. and Mrs. Gross told them that Jayden had lived there for 5 or 6 years. I wrote it down. 5 or 6 years. And so he's 10, so maybe she had him for a little bit, or maybe he lived someplace else, but the majority of the time was there. So I don't know. And then we had that Facebook post that said that perhaps Jayden was born addicted, and so I don't know. Typically, CPS takes the children right away if they're born like that. They will, you know, make sure they're safe. But I don't know who had him prior to his grandmother. But I do believe that you could be correct, because she really seems to really have the vibe of her not wanting to talk about it, you know, just let it go. Not genuine at all in the interviews, in my opinion. So yeah, you know, and again, you know, I don't want to blame anybody, but I also don't want to discount it because the other two girls are there, you know, and if she was willing to just go ahead and let Jayden go, who's to say that she won't just do that to the girls, you know, if they get to be too much to handle. And that always worries me. It really does. It always worries me when they blame the kids, because that means that they've possibly done something wrong. In my opinion, we saw it with Sebastian, you know. I mean, I have a whole theory that the, you know, in my opinion, that the Proudfoots have, and I call it the blame Sebastian theory. I mean, and a lot of people do that. They blame Sebastian. Oh, he walked off. I don't think so, in my opinion. Scranton says I'm 5'3" and usually need to reach tall items, and I always ask the wife if her tall partner can reach for me. That's hilarious. Well, yeah, because you don't want to be like, you know, because I learned that really young, you know, because I don't know, I forget who I asked about that. I was like, I don't think that lady at the table likes me, and she's like, well, make sure you address her, you know. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. It's like respect, right? But I didn't even think about it, you know what I mean? Because you don't. And I was really new to it too. They're like, you'll get a better tip that way. The lady always decides how much the tip is. And I was like, oh, smart. Can't believe she made them rehearse her story to cover up. It seems that way, doesn't it? It really does. It seems so rehearsed. And especially when we slow jam these tomorrow, because like I was going over them. Oh boy, like just the way that the two aunts were acting, they were distancing themselves. And I'm not saying that Shy, I think her name is Shy, has anything to do with that. I you know, I don't know. I don't know where she lives. I've heard that she is actually like a sister-in-law. So I don't know if, you know, her and the brother live someplace else and she's just there for moral support. I don't know. I really don't. But I'm curious because of the other kids that are involved, you know. And we'll talk about it too, because they talk about that as well. They're concerned. Fred and Sheila are too, you know. And I think it's just like with any of us, right? We just want to make sure that none of the other kids are in the care of these people who have these type of, you know, charges in history. Because, you know, unfortunately, those behaviors don't typically get better; they get worse. That's what worries me the most, you know, here. But let me get back into this here.
How many children did they say? How many other children they had there?
We've heard as many as 5. Now, you know, you can hear anything. And that's what we told him when we were talking to him, and he didn't want to be filmed. Lawyer told him not to. That was his excuse. And we said, well, there's a lot of questions out there that people would like to know on YouTube. He had started off talking about he'd gotten a bad rap on YouTube. People on YouTube was giving him a bad rap. And I said, well, as a career police officer, you've got to expect that. People's going to look at you. The parents is the first people we look at. Oh, yeah, I understand. I let them search the house. I let them
bring dogs in the house, search the property all around.
But now, if there's nothing there, why would you wouldn't have a problem with that? That's why we felt that he was somewhere else. Mm-hmm. We didn't feel like we was going to find him there.
That's another thing too, is because like you said, like you're there yesterday and there's like literally like no law enforcement on that street except like one. So where were they? They must have expanded out and had other places in mind.
I don't know. She's taking me on the lake here. I have my own opinion, but I'll leave it at that. The main thing is, the bottom line is, they've got her now. So somebody's done some, you know, we don't have insight to their work, but the first thing I would have done is separated those two people and put them in a room, and I would have started interrogating. You can be nice. You can start off with an interview, but with what was showing up here on, it was leading towards one or both of these people here. The only thing that threw me and Sheila, again, we felt that way until we found that bag of clothing there. And then we're thinking, could that boy had put these clothes here because he was running away? Could he had set this up?
10-year-old though? A 10-year-old?
Yeah, of course. We're talking mountain. We're talking mountain boys. You know, it's like somebody in the city, how fast you got 14-year-olds beating adults up in these cities and stuff. These are country boys. These boys raised in the country are... They see enough YouTube, enough TV to know how to run away or pack them a extra pair of shoes. Now, that's not what happened.
Right.
In the end, after we came off the hill, we find out from Josh that he says law enforcement actually dropped that bag of clothing off. Why is that? Why? What was the purpose of that?
Yeah, what is? Like, why would they do that?
Exactly.
Yeah. So they may have been working on another angle. They may know something we didn't know. The bottom line is, in the end, they done their job, and we said that. We've got a second video that was supposed to go out tomorrow. We probably never run it now, of the back of the house and other things that we found and different things. But we say that the police, it's going to take the police to sit down with these two people to solve this case. That's what it's going to come down to, is the police and a good interrogation and polygraphs. You know, we wanted to ask if they had taken a polygraph or refused a polygraph. We didn't get that chance. They finally ended. We asked as many questions as fast as we could, but Josh finally ended the interview. The lawyer told him not to talk. Look around all we want to, but he ain't got nothing else to say. And Sheila said,
so it's unclear if anyone's in custody at this time. So, you know, I want to say, you know, it's the body's found, but there's no confirmation that anyone has been arrested at this time or confirmation that anyone is responsible at this time. You know, I did put mom confessed because people are saying mom literally led them to the body, but that's just rumor speculation at this time. But it appears, based off the locals, you know, the tone of what the locals are saying in the group chats, the locals there, they're saying justice for this little boy. As if, you know, something,
and, you know,
and
everybody's innocent until proven guilty. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty, but if she's taking them to the body, then I seen where a local Catholic priest in Lexington had offered to pay for the funeral. So I imagine that it must be correct. I think it's more than a rumor, but
yeah, no, I saw that. Plus, you know, Jeanette Hines, thank you for the comment earlier. You know, even the family members, some of the family members, the aunts and the distant cousins and the aunts were starting to say, "There's no way this boy's afraid of the dark. You know, he wouldn't go out at night like that." They were starting to call it out a little bit, you know, and saying this just doesn't make sense. Things are not adding up here.
Yeah. Well, again, I'd like to think we're the straw that broke the camel's back. I think that with the way we went out.
Yeah, because, you know, Fred, they're seeing you guys there. They know that, like, for a while, I noticed also, too, as law enforcement was really trying to keep the public out of that area and only, like, train people. But it seems like, you know, in the last few days, they opened it up and now people can go up and down that road in a sense. They probably realized, oh, we're good people coming here and this is not going away, you know, and let's see who can make a deal first, who can make.
I think I think they realized where we were going either last night when we left, that we were going to canoe to the grandmother's place and to the cemetery, or that we would be there today. And again.
Okay, guys, so just a couple of things from that clip. Excuse me. It seems to me that they were talking that maybe there were about 5 kids living in the trailer. I don't know how true that is, because I'm not sure if Mr. Gross has children with anyone else other than Felicia, and I can't say, you know, either way that he does or doesn't. I'm not sure, and if you guys know, let me know in the chat, please. But that's what they were that's what they were alleging. And then I found it interesting that Fred said the first thing that he would have done is to separate the two of them, interview them, and if that didn't work, interviewing them and being nice about it, start interrogating. I couldn't agree more, and I don't know why that didn't happen in the Sebastian Rogers case. You know, and I'm interested to know if they searched a cemetery. I'm going to have to go back through their videos and check that out, because I know C. Taylor had mentioned that earlier and it was mentioned in the clip as well. So I'm going to have to go back and check that out, because I would really like to you know, follow up with that. So Fred also said that, you know, he could have hid clothes out there for himself or something if he was thinking about running away. I think that is probably, you know, an okay theory. But then again, I do think that it may have been set up for people to think that, right? And we had talked about that earlier. And then also, the mother, Felicia Gross, did in fact bring police to where a shallow grave was for Jayden, that she says, and apparently, like I said, it doesn't seem like there's any other arrests that have been made, that she said that she dug herself. And then also there was a priest. I want to shout out to the priest, and we'll see it pop up on the screen here in a little bit in the next clip, that offered to pay for funeral costs for Jayden, which I thought that was extremely kind and generous, and, you know, a very nice act of love, because, you know, he deserves the best. And I haven't heard anything about the family using any of the funds that they raised through the GoFundMe to put towards his funeral costs. So there's that. Pamela Roberts says the poor little boy being with his granny and sisters for years, and then being left with auntie, and then being dumped on that mother while his sisters were left behind, all within a month. I know, Pam, it had to have been like so traumatizing and so hard to adjust, you know, especially I was thinking about that as well. He's used to living in a household that has majority females, and now he's going into, you know, a male dominant household. He may not have known how to react to that in and of itself, you know, which would be another challenge for him. And I feel so sorry for him as well, having to deal with that. And, you know, who knows if they were telling him, man up, you know, be a man about it and stuff. You can't cry over that, you know, and maybe the other kids teasing him. I have no idea. And, you know, I don't even know if there was a relationship where Felicia would bring her boys over to see her other kids, like for their birthdays or Christmas or holidays or whatever. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it was that way, and I could be wrong. I don't know what really could have happened here, where they just dump him off like that. I really don't see, and hold themselves with no accountability whatsoever, and say, you know, oh, well, if he was here, I'd hug him, and pray for us, and R.I.P. Jayden, R.I.P. R.I.P. Some people, I guess, aren't like sentimental, though. I guess. C. Taylor says they have 3 boys together, from my understanding, and then Jayden moved in with them recently. That's the best of my knowledge as well, C. Taylor. Yeah, that's what I'm really sticking with, because that's what I've heard mostly. And even in the video where they talk about J.D. Vance, you can see the 3 boys, and they're kind of playing at the river or lake or something like that. And you see the 3 boys. So, good night, Churchy. Thanks so much for being here. Yes, coming from the loving home to that. Yeah, Pamela Roberts. And, you know, it's it's really hard to imagine what he could have been going through, or how he must have felt. And then also with school starting, you know, in a new place, obviously if he's, you know, 20 to 30 minutes away from his residence, and he's not going to be, or his normal residence, and he's not going to be at the same school with the same kids. It just all had to have been such a major difference, you know, for him to adjust to and get used to. And, you know, if we think about sibling rivalry, even in a household where 4 kids grew up together all together, there's always a bit of sibling rivalry, right? I'm your favorite, right, Mom? You know, kind of thing. And so it could have been hard on the other boys transitioning as well, and that could have caused issues between siblings. And then, you know, you also have this guy. I mean, he looks like a jerk. I'm sorry. He looks like a loser, and he's just like sitting there with his shirt off. You know, like, I work for myself. Like, you know, I mean, poor Jayden. And then Mom is like clearly on substances. You know what I mean? Allegedly, in my opinion. If I look at her, I'm thinking, you don't look like that at 33. You just, I mean, unless you're really put yourself through it. It reminds me of Kayla Montgomery, like seeing her mugshot. I mean, it looked like Night of the Living Dead, and then you see her in court and she's like, gained weight and she looks healthy, and, she actually has a really pretty face, and if you saw her before, she was really bad on the drugs. Like you could just look at her face and, she looked normal. You know what I mean? She was healthy, and you could see the difference. And I see that in this 33-year-old, lady here. I do. And really, honestly, I believe that we're going to find out that she probably isn't a lady. She's more of a monster for what she's done. God only knows. Hey, Kathy Bartholomew, good to see you. Oh, okay. I heard that she has 6 children all total. One of the aunts has her two girls. Yes, in my opinion, and I can't remember the podcast though. See, that's what I was thinking too. Like I thought I heard that. I'm pretty sure I heard that on Justin, almost 100%. Also, I believe Bullhorn Betty was talking about it too. And then there was also Matt Thibodeau, I think was another one too that I heard it. So like it's been said. And then like you said, Kathy, the 2 girls, the 3 kids were with grandma, and then like the other 3 she had with Mr. Gross. So the other 3 were with grandma when she passed away. The aunt who was also living there, which is Miss Bunty. Whenever the grandmother passed away, she took custody, and then she never did, do anything through the courts or anything. I don't know if custody was transferred over yet, even, maybe they were still dealing with grandma's affairs, and maybe, again, I have to stick up for this young man. I mean, poor Jayden, it just had to have been so rough. And the girls too. I mean, they lost their grandma, and now they're with the aunt who, doesn't want to take care of them because they're too much to handle, but maybe he was taking it the hardest. That's another thing too, guys, is everybody takes things differently, so I just feel so sorry for him. He must have just been so tenderhearted and just so, like lost without his grandma. Well, great. Couponing took a couple weeks off to visit my sons and meet grandbabies. Oh, how fun. That's awesome, couponing. Oh, my goodness. That's so wonderful. Well, congratulations. How old are your grandbabies? Did they just have babies, or are you going to meet them for the first time? Yeah, I know. It's so sad for this. The loss of the sweet little soul. He is so sweet, Kathy. You could just tell, just big old smile and just a sweetheart, and it's just such a different environment, right? It's just such a different environment for these poor kids once, and life is cruel in that way, like. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. We're not guaranteed that somebody will be with us forever, even if they don't pass away, maybe something happens and people grow apart or whatever. And it can just be really devastating. And, when it happens when you're little, it's so hard to understand, I think that's another reason, that's kind of good about having pets, even like a goldfish, because they don't live long, so you can kind of teach kids that, like, I don't know, it's hard because you don't want that sprung on. He might not have never known anything about anybody passing away before. We just don't know, which would make it even more challenging, because that would be like a major loss first time, No, I didn't see the court TV interview, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom. Uh-oh, what was it? I have to go look. Oh, I'm going to go do that after this. Okay, hold on one second. I'm just going to go ahead and play this next clip, guys. And
jump on this other one. We were heading back this evening or early in the morning.
Well, even I was the same way with you guys. Like, I was curious, how's the search doing, you know? And I couldn't reach you for hours. And, you know, I'm like, okay, it's probably the reception, bad reception, no cell phone reception. You know, a lot of lack of information coming out about this boy for the last week.
Yeah.
Like, there was like, for a long time, the photo that we see here was like the only photo of the shot child that was being put out there until just the other day when they released a few other photos. But there was like, I was like, doesn't the family take pictures of this kid? Doesn't law enforcement have any other pictures they can share besides a picture here? And, you know, I'll be honest here, you know, I was very disturbed of seeing this one picture of this child here. I seen like hot things under the child's eyes,
Yeah.
you know, black under the eyes, and it looked like he's a little bit skinny.
Yeah. Yeah, he's undernourished and
Very pale.
either been crying at that point or just undernourished. It looks like he looks like he's underweight, and I mentioned that to the mother and Josh while we were there. I brought up about the photo of him with his eyes dark and how he looked, and that's attributed to missing his grandmother. So
what brought you guys out there? You guys live a few hours away from that location. Like, what got you to go out there and want to search for this child?
Well, we saw your coverage. We kept up with your coverage on everything that was going on. And again, in the beginning, we felt there was no reason because we felt the police was going to have to solve this internally. It was going to be one or both. And so there was no reason to go search. And then at the end there, we started thinking, well, you know, he's probably deceased by now. Yeah. It's either time for the birds but we wanted closure. That's like right now. Of course, everybody is saddened that he's deceased, but, you know, sometimes there's worse things than death, especially for a child. So
I get it. It's
at least he's not suffering.
Yeah, I know. It's sad, you know, and we're going to wait for some details to come out. I put your video here on mute, and I will link it so everyone can hear the volume and your conversation with the family, because you actually spoke to them, but you actually transcribed it a little bit because it was hard to hear or something.
Yeah.
So we'll link that up in the description of the video here. And
thank you so
appreciate
much.
that.
No problem. No, I mean, you know, thank you for, you know, at least trying your best. I mean, this is not easy work. Look, Sheila. I mean, it's rugged. You know, you got the elements. You got the sticks. You got this, you know, the wildlife. It's just you got the stick. I mean, it's hard. You know, even with Joseph Couch going up from that exit 41 at that gas station and going up that hill, my heart's pumping. It's hard.
We cut some of it out. I actually thought they'd have to carry me out of there. I was I'm underestimate my age, I believe. So underestimate.
So did you see any other searchers out there at the time?
No. We seen nobody else. There was 3 or 4 cars, sightseers that come up the holler. In fact, we videotaped them until we got too high up, and then we could still hear vehicles going by, but we couldn't see the road or the trailer. We was too high up on the hill. We come up to a flat up towards the top, and the 2 footprints that we were following disappeared. I don't know what happened, where they went. Again, well, you know, Sheila and I have got faith. I don't know where those footprints come from, where they went to, why they stopped, why we went that high, and then by the time we went up there and come back down, all of a sudden,
good Lord,
they come home. What's the chances of that? What's the chances of us stopping there and taking a break, and within 5, 10, 15 minutes, they pull up, park behind the house? We would have never known they were there the way they parked behind their house.
Yeah.
Vehicle was hidden from the road.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. He had
you didn't hear it? Like, can you hear noise? Because
you could hear him. He had loud pipes. We could hear him, but we're sitting right there across from his trailer at that point.
We'd come back down the hill.
Yeah.
To rest.
So what's next so you guys actually, before we found out the terrible news, you guys were ready to go back?
Yeah.
Oh, we were going back this evening. As soon as she got done, we got a second video here that's very interesting and covers some other things, you know, just where we're talking about between us without calling people out and saying, you know, we always leave room. Again, we don't want to accuse somebody falsely, and everybody's innocent until proven guilty. And we want to don't want to slander nobody, but it was our opinion. We were of the thinking that you'd have to see the faces and her actions when Sheila mentioned the grandmother's house and the graveyard. Would he have gone there and that, where's this at? And he said canoe, or she did. And we said, well, we passed that on the way in. We remember seeing a sign that said canoe. So they knew we were going to canoe at some point, whether it was last night or today or
Maybe
tomorrow.
that's, maybe that's what got her to say, hey, I got something to say, because if it's two people involved, and I don't know who got arrested, and I don't know if anyone got arrested at all, but maybe one of them works a deal on the other and just confesses and says, I want to help.
Yeah, and that's why
I don't want to spill the beans. I want to confess.
Okay, guys. So yeah, I mean, I think it's very possible that they could have, been told, let's work a deal out. Be the first one to, squeal and you get the deal, so to speak. And I know that's kind of a saying. I just want to point out too, when we're looking at the terrain around the house, like it's kind of the opposite of Summer. Like Summer lived on the hill, right? So around her, there were areas where you could quite literally fall down into a holler, right? But with Jayden, he lived in the holler. And so if you're looking to see how he would have ever been able to traverse the woods around him, he wouldn't have been in the middle of the night. They're clear straight up. Like, I mean, when she showed with the camera, they were like almost like this, right? Like on a slant, but pretty much more of an incline, in my opinion, from what I could see around. And so at night he would need, hiking boots. He would need a headlamp probably. But then again, that's going to attract a lot of bugs to you. We all know that when the light shines and it's dark outside, all the bugs come around, right? So, I mean, again, there's just so many things wrong here that would point that he did not just walk off, and he didn't. Same thing with Sebastian, by the way. So in my opinion, I think Jayden in the blue t-shirt picture, hey Jude, good to see you, looks very gaunt in my opinion. We see him here. He's got, bags under his eyes. His face is very thin, and so are his arms, in my opinion. And then when we see him back around Easter time of this year, he's looking really healthy, right? Just like a healthy kid, not overweight, not underweight. His face is filled in, and he's got a huge smile on his face, right? So, but they were saying that it was attributed to the fact that his grandmother had just passed away and he was missing her so much. And that was the reason why he was looking, gaunt and, bags under his eyes. Poor little guy. So it's so sad. And, another thing that Fred had said, he said he says, quote, there are worse things than death for a child, end quote. And that really got me, because I was like, if we think about what Jayden was going through, and knowing that, in my opinion, that he's going to be, that he went to heaven, I could agree with that statement. Although I don't like to, because I think that Jayden should have been able to live happily in his life and do so much more than he was able to. And that's our friend Justin down there. I didn't take him off. I didn't see him in the picture, but you could see it. You could just see it, in my opinion. And then let's see. Okay, they were having a lot of trouble, going up the hill, right? So they said that they took a break to stop, and the only way that they would have known that they had come home and parked around the back was because of the vantage point that they had from up top, right, looking down, and they could see that they tried to park in the back of the trailer, right? And they said from the road you couldn't really, you wouldn't be able to see that, and I'll show that in a little bit here. Let's see. So they said they really didn't know, what to expect when going up the hill, but that's kind of just what they did, just to kind of check around the area and to walk up. And they said they're glad they did, because, they were able to see from that vantage point. So I thought that was really neat. And, I'm really grateful that people, again, will do these kinds of things, because I would not go out there. Not to say I don't enjoy hiking. I like the woods. I think it's, a great place to go if you want quiet and peace and birds and everything, nature at its finest. But in the same way, I'm not going to be looking for someone who has passed away. To me, it wouldn't be something that I would be good at, in my opinion. Hey, Adam Forever 21, good to see you. So I'm glad that there's people that can do that are willing to do that. And I mean, look, we have a physically fit young 30-something-year-old man, and he's not out there looking for his stepson because he knew where his stepson was the whole entire time. The only time you don't look for someone is when you know where they are. That's it. But they expect us to think that, this is all okay and normal. But we see this play out. We saw the situation with, 6-year-old who still hasn't been found, by the way, James Hutchinson and his mother, Brittany, and her husband. And they had other kids too. The only one that ended up with a cinder block tied to him, thrown over the Ohio River, was just an adorable, sweet child, James Hutchinson. It's a pattern all the time. It is. It's just a pattern. And with that, I want to play this next clip for you guys. Because we're going to see where they're parked on the side of the trailer.
That's why we talked on the way up there on that live video. On the live video, we discussed, and that was our intention, in case the parents or the mother and the stepfather watched it, that the other one would be thinking, which we figured the mother may be the weakest link. We think they both have history.
Right.
So it's not their first rodeo, probably been interrogated or interviewed. But we felt if we talked about the death penalty, through that death penalty out there, either them, and if the police hadn't thought about it, which I'm no Einstein, or we aren't, but if they hadn't thought about it, that may give the police something to go back and say, hey, here's the deal, guys. We're going to offer one of you a deal. The other one's going to the chair. And we don't know. We'll maybe find out here in the future exactly how this all came down. And but I think they probably wish they hadn't have talked to us, because I think we brought up enough questions.
Yeah, I think we made them a little nervous.
Oh, we made them nervous. There's no doubt.
Is it foul play or not?
Well, if somebody showed them where the body, you're a smart man as well as we do. Somebody's had to been missing for 6 or 7 days. Somebody's had to take them to the body. So,
like you said, if there's multiple people involved, maybe someone in that group of people, says, it spills the beans.
That's right.
And you said the mom could be the weakest link.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And now you being in law enforcement, prior law enforcement, how many years of experience do you have in law enforcement?
40 years.
You got 40 years.
40 years. I retired.
Where were you? Like, what was your position?
Well, I retired. I was chief of police for a little small community, a little small town. I always stayed with small towns. I don't like the big agencies and all that. I worked for a sheriff's department up in Pike County, Kentucky, up in eastern Kentucky, and which isn't far from Jackson or Breathitt County. And then I worked for a police department there in Houstonville. A couple of years, went to the sheriff's department for about 6 years and came back to Houstonville. I worked about 30 years there in the Houstonville area. And
Houstonville, never heard of Houston.
Yeah, it's a little small town, central Kentucky, and one horse town, and they don't even have a horse now. Sheila and I had the only 2 horses in town. We
really
horses.
Whoa. So when you being in law enforcement, I mean, in the state of Kentucky, they don't treat anyone goes to prison or jail for stuff on a child. I mean, how do they get treated in the system there? Not too well, right? Not with open arms.
It shouldn't be any system, any state. They should hold them accountable. They should. That's just a charge, a child, whether it's abuse or something like this, and this may turn out. I won't speculate, but who knows what that young man went through? Exactly. We'll never know. What was the reason? What was the purpose of this?
Especially when you just get custody back of the child, after the child, that's horrible. I mean, if the child was put in their care in May, maybe it's a CPS issue. Maybe that has to be talked about. How in the world did the CPS just give, or, the Department of Child Services, I don't know what it's called there in the state. Every state has a different way to call it. But how in the world did the state or whoever just say, hey, here. If the state was even involved, maybe the state wasn't involved. But I say that because, you know, the mom has, you know, charges in the past for child endangerment, wanted endangerment. You ever hear of what is wanted endangerment? Because I never heard of that outside of Kentucky.
Well, wanton endangerment is when you put somebody in a position where it could endanger, imminent danger of physical injury or death. And you place them in that position through either pointing a gun at them or whatever it might be, but you've endangered somebody's life. You've placed them, so she's either left them alone, left them in a hot car, but locked them up. All these, you could use your imagination, but to be charged with the endangerment of a child, she's placed that, somebody, the mother, the parent, has placed them in that position of, that the social services felt that it was a danger of harming themselves or being harmed.
Yeah, it could be an adult or a child. The wanton endangerment could be anybody, correct?
Oh, of course, yeah, you can. But you know, that's the sad thing. In hindsight's 2020. But I don't know. I don't know the caseworker on this, but I guarantee you they're having some second thoughts now. And you know, again, they had a.
You know what's sad, Fred and Sheila and Fred. You said the rumor is they have like 5 other children or multiple other children. I mean, now what happens if you know somebody's getting charged here, either or, stepdad or mother or stepdad, maybe both. I would think it would probably be both at this point because one knows information about the other. You know, if they're both involved in some sort of conspiracy, what happens to those children?
Yeah,
you know,
they had a 4-year-old or 5-year-old with them.
How old?
He looked like he was about 4, maybe 5. He was young.
That was our question when we got back in the vehicle. Can you believe that if she's been charged before and now there's a child missing, just out of safety, why didn't that child should have been at least put in protective custody until the outcome of this was, thank the Lord, nothing happened to it, but very possibly could have.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So again, you know, they're just talking about some of the same subjects we've been talking about. One being that Felicia was charged with wanton endangerment. So wanton endangerment means that somebody did something reckless and put the child in danger. And she was charged with that. We're not really sure what exactly transpired in that situation, if she was convicted, that sort of thing. But I agree with what Fred was saying. I mean, either way, you would think that now that a child is missing, it would be time to act so the other children stay safe. You know, and obviously with the condition that we see the mother in, she doesn't look like any condition to be taking care of the kids. If she's not taking care of herself, and then also on, you know, possibly substances. But also we got a reminder that, you know, any prison, you know, and they have a child abuser that comes in, it's not well, you know, the person's not well received in any prison anywhere. So, you know, JLR asked to, you know, what do you think is going to happen when she gets there? You know, what's Kentucky like? And he's like, it's like that everywhere, and it should be. And I agree. Also calling Felicia the weakest link. I agree with that as well. And I think that Katie is the weakest link. Somebody had asked me that if one of them did roll, who would it be? And I said Katie. And that's why they don't let her talk, and that's why she's lawyered up and that sort of thing, because she knows that every time she's in front of the camera, she royally screws up, and then, you know, here we are, you know, reviewing it and saying, oh gosh, look how badly she screwed up. Good night, Miss Ann. I prefer a small town too, Holly S. Like, I could see where he's saying that he wouldn't want to work in like a big city or something like that. And also, I think you know you'd be able to take more time out on these cases as well. That's why I would probably enjoy it, because you don't have a high crime rate to deal with, and it's just like chaotic all the time. That's another issue that I have with Sumner County is that, you know, even though it's not this crazy area that's high in crime, but they still can't solve this missing child case. And there's so much circumstantial evidence, it's not even funny in my opinion, you know, but I think back about that too. Couponing says, does anyone know what brand of shoes Sebastian was wearing in the Texas Roadhouse? On my phone, when I zoom in, it's too blurry. I'm thinking that they were New Balance or Nike, because it looks like to me that there's an N on them. That's my opinion, couponing, or I've kind of shared that whenever we were examining that a while back. So, oh, New Balance. Hey, Jude says, yeah, thanks, New Balance. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because it's because they have like an N or something. Like, you know, they're like a navy color, white soles, and then like an N you can see. But I know it's really, really blurry when you go to zoom in on it. Pamela says, Sheila and Fred are a really loving couple, and they are so sweet to each other in their video. Oh, neat, Pamela. I haven't had the chance to go over and check out all their videos yet, but I really enjoyed listening to them today because, you know, and you're going to hear a little bit more. I have only 2 more clips, but just the way that they are talking with each other and including each other in on things, and then working so hard together, and just, but then also enjoying themselves is really, really nice to see. I agree. You know, and you can tell their hearts are in the right place. You know, Fred saying, you know, I don't want to, you know, go on and, you know, accuse anybody who's innocent and everything. And I appreciate that too, because, you know, you would hate to, you know, point the fingers when they don't have anything to do with it. Again, it's extremely difficult, you know, and I've never been in law enforcement, so I don't know what it's like to be in law enforcement and have to kind of, you know, bite my tongue or anything like that, because I'm just saying opinions up here. But in my opinion, as humble as it is, it's extremely difficult to not see these patterns, and you know, because I don't want to be, you know, a fool. I don't want to be fooled. And so I feel like if I was not looking at these patterns, I'd be fooling myself, or thinking that, you know, they're telling the truth and sticking up for, you know, people who did something to Sebastian, and you know, in my opinion, or did something to Jayden, or did something to Summer, because those are the cases where I really look at the parents really hard. Same thing with Adam Montgomery. I mean, the moment that I saw the picture of him with a teardrop tattoo, and they said that Harmony is missing, I said, he's the one that did it. You know? And that's my unconscious bias, because I know that a teardrop tattoo means that you either killed someone or you want people to think that you did. One or the other. You know, either you're putting on a front or you literally did that. You know, I'm going to watch it, Pamela. I'm going to watch it. Yeah, they're delightful. And, you know, just trying. People who are out there doing it and trying, I mean, man, hats off to them. And like I said, I really want to watch the one where they search for Sebastian, too. I really do, because I think that is amazing. And I like the way that they think so far. So I'm just wondering what their take on things are. They said they weren't as familiar with Summer's case, though. And I'm sorry, guys. I said that we were going to see the house in the previous clip. It's in this one, so we'll see it right now.
Yeah, the media says they have a crew headed there, but what you just said there is exactly what happened with the case of Summer Wells. Summer Wells, Rogersville, Tennessee, went missing June 2021. Within a few weeks after Summer Wells went missing, they had 3 boys in the house there. The state came in and took the boys out. You know, the Wells themselves say it was for their own safety, whatever. They're lying, but the state actually came in and removed them. And now the boys have never went back. And the Summer's still missing. The child's still missing. And those 3 boys that they had never went back to the house. The state had never let them have custody back of those boys.
Sure.
As this missing child is still out there.
You know, when you don't have a body, JR, it's pretty hard to claim a crime or be charged with a crime without the body, without the evidence. Sheila and I was talking yesterday how cool, even though we picked up on a few body language, a few facial expressions, all in all, they were pretty cool. And that makes you think, and we even commented to each other, I don't even think it was on the video, we was on our way to McDonald's, but how we knew or felt that if something happened to him, his body, he was not close by, and they didn't feel that he was ever going to be discovered because they were too cool, too confident. But now, the thing I think that put this in motion, and maybe someday she'll tell, maybe she'll say, nah, they didn't have a thing to do with it. But maybe that mother will say that when Sheila was talking about going to the grandmother's house and returning to the cemetery and seeing where she's buried at and maybe see if he went there. And the last thing Sheila told her was, we're going to find that boy. We're going to find that boy. That was her last words, I think, when we was walking off. we're going to find that boy. And I think that if they may have gone when they left there, they may have drove out there to see if he wasn't, I don't know the circumstances, but if he wasn't covered good, if it
looked like it'd been disturbed or anything, maybe.
Well, like if it was going to be found, and then they may have. Who knows?
Let me ask you too something. You know, if a parent is involved, either or both, and you spoke to them, how do you feel about, you know, being searching out there under the guise of this boy wandering off, only for it to end up being a family member involved, and then lying to your face? Do you take that personal? Do you take that? Does that make you mad that you spent your time and resources?
No, we don't get mad or angry. We thank the good Lord that He's brought this to an end, and that at least you and us and Magnolia and all these people out there that loves children, and you know what? Who out there? We don't want any more children. We've raised ours and grandchildren now, but
we would have took him.
We would have taken him. We tell him on video in case he was listening and hid somewhere. We didn't know that he wasn't up there and just shying backward and wouldn't come out afraid. We told him, you can go live with us. Why do we have to do this to our children? There's people that will take them and take care of them. If you don't want them, give them to somebody else. But we can't. This is just totally. So, no, we don't get mad. God will have His say in the end. I would. He's a little angel. Yeah. And he's in a better place. So.
Yeah, there's some rumors, going with this child. I'll just put out what the speculation is, with no confirmation. I'm hearing two things. One, the child was found near a cemetery where the grandmother died, buried. I heard that. And another one I'm hearing is the rumor that the child was found on a property where Joshua Cross used to live in Canoe, and he was found somewhere on a property affiliated with Joshua Cross. So these are the two rumors out there. It does appear that the child was Gross. I'm sorry, Gross. I said Cross. I don't know why I said Cross. SS Gross. Joshua Gross. But it does seem the consensus here of what I'm reading here on the screen here on the left is it's in the Canoe area. This child was found a significant distance from what we see here in this location here.
Yeah. We mentioned that, and when we did, he said he couldn't have got there. He couldn't have walked there. Somebody would have had to taken him. We was asking how far Canoe was. And somebody evidently did take him. That's where he ended up at.
See, they put out, okay, the child was last seen Tuesday night in the evening time, went to bed, seen, and then somehow she woke up in the morning, and apparently she went down to a neighbor's house to call 911. She didn't call 911 herself out of her own house. Some people are saying that's red flags. Apparently the media is saying that she went to a neighbor's house to report her child missing around 9 something in the morning on Wednesday morning, right? But here's the thing is, that's what their version. I'm wondering when someone last seen eyes besides parents, the stepdad and the mom, whoever in that house, children, whatever, but who else? When was the last time actually somebody outside of that household saw this child?
Great question. And we asked that. And we think that's got something to do because that was one of the facial reactions we got. And it was directed at both of them. And I said, who else besides you two saw Jayden that night? Was there anybody else? Did the children see Jayden that night at 9 o'clock when he went to bed? Or was it just you two? Mm-hmm. No, the kids saw him. So, and we asked that question specifically for the police, just in case sometimes people tell somebody one thing and somebody something else. And that's what we was wanting to put that video out so fast. Yeah. So the law enforcement, so the school teachers, because Josh made a comment there about Jayden and that he wasn't in school and why.
Okay, guys. So talking about Jayden not being in school and talking about, how that the kids were the last ones to see Jayden, right, is what they were being told. And so they were kind of trying to make sure that they could interview these people. And there's some audio on their channel, like they said. And then that way, if somebody heard it and say, it was law enforcement or a teacher or somebody that could, say, hey, that's not true, or, that's not what they told me. Very smart thinking, in my opinion, to try to catch them up, right? Also, another odd statement was that they said that Jayden couldn't have walked to his grandmother's gravesite or to her house where he used to live because somebody would have had to drive him there because it was too far for him to walk. Also, they stated that, or they were talking about calling 911. So apparently Felicia did not call 911 from her house or her cell phone. she went to the neighbors to call. Now, I will say that earlier in the video, they were talking about how there's no internet access down in that holler. I don't know if maybe she went to one of her neighbors that was up the hill more, or if they paid extra to have some sort of, high-speed internet access or something like that. But I know that they too were having trouble down in the holler when it came to phone reception, right? They talk about no body. They talk about evidence. They talk about how the body language of the two of them, meaning the Gross mom and dad, were cool, and that they were a little bit too confident, right? They thought that they had it under control, but then they were asking more and more questions about the exact location, really, that they found Jayden in. Sheila's last words to Felicia were, "We are going to find that boy." And I have no doubt in my mind, without knowing this woman, that after she had the interaction with Sheila where there was no eye contact made between them, where she wouldn't look Sheila in the eye, or, was not trying to look over at Sheila, I'm sure that maybe probably popped out of her mouth, a couple times to this late, letting her know, hey, we're going to find him. And I don't know that it came out in a, endearing way, like, don't worry, we'll find him, because I don't think she believed that they didn't know where she was. I think she said that walking off, knowing that was gonna, it was a little ticking time bomb that she kind of set off and said, okay, see you later, in my opinion, just knowing what I've watched from this video and knowing how Sheila felt about the situation after speaking with Felicia, in my opinion. Pamela says they made me cry when they were calling him and offering food and drink. And they said they would go, that he could go live with them if only they could have crossed paths with him sooner. Pamela, that's what I wrote down here too. I said it broke my heart when they said that Jayden could come stay with them, like as if he was hiding out there and he was scared, like, hey, you can come live with us. Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I mean, how kind and caring and compassionate is that for, to understand that, really, really sweet. Because he could have been hiding up there, especially after talking to those parents. I'm sure, the two of them were getting the vibes, getting bad vibes. Adam Forever 21 says, I bet there's more to the truth than she over-medicated him. Poor boy, not fair to rob him of his life. I agree, Adam Forever 21. I honestly think there's more to the story. And again, you would have to give a lot for somebody to overdose, and just knowing that you're giving somebody a high dosage, I think that shows intent, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. And I don't believe them, especially because they've been so dishonest from jump, right? If they had come out and called and said this was an accident, and then Jayden was found, deceased and things like that, we wouldn't be here talking about it, But the fact that they lied about it, they had resources out searching, and they had no problem with that. As a matter of fact, they went down to the McDonald's and got themselves some cheeseburgers and fries and nuggets, and they were going to go chill in the house. While other people too, and I'm just saying they're older than I am, older people, and I'm older than these people are, right? So they're in their 30s, I'm in my 40s, and these people are probably, I'm guessing, around my age. No, but I'm just saying, say they're in their 50s or 60s, and they're out there and they're fine with that. They're just sitting on their big butts eating fucking cheeseburgers, like the Proud Feet. Just letting it get all wide on all sides, not even worrying about searching. It's not right. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, according to the court TV, eyewitness stated that they saw a car drive by with a child screaming the day before he went missing. I don't want to imagine what happened. I mean, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom, how sad. I couldn't have even imagined, like, them saying that. Oh my gosh. So he's... And they're thinking it was Jayden in the car. And, another thing too is just one of those things where we see this a lot, where there's one child that's mistreated and the other ones are treated like gold. And when these are the kids with, with Mr. Gross, the Gross kids, or excuse me, not the Gross kids, the family, right? They have the 3 kids and then Mr. and Mrs. Gross, and then all of a sudden Jayden comes in almost like an outsider. It's sad. It's sad. And I mean, honestly, even if the other kids didn't appreciate Jayden or like him very much, can you imagine how scared they had to have been? Because I also heard that they were coached, and I don't know if that's true or not, but I heard that the children were coached on what to say by Felicia. I don't know if that came out during her confession or if it's true or not. But they have to be terrified. I mean, what happened to the Jayden? What happened to our brother? What happened here? Yeah, Holly S. Oh no. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, I can't remember who it was that made that statement, but I think he was I think he was mayor or councilman who was searching. It's horrible. Oh, okay. I do remember hearing that there was the mayor or one of the higher ups was coming out to search. Wow, that's so interesting. I'm definitely going to have to check that out. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, guys, I mean, there's just so much coming out now. And of course, now that she has confessed, people are going to feel more comfortable to come out, right? Now that they have an arrest, people are going to feel more comfortable to come out, Okay, and here's this next short clip here.
Sometimes people tell somebody one thing and somebody something else, and that's what we was wanting to put that video out so fast. Yeah. So the law enforcement, so the school teachers, because Josh made a comment there about Jayden and that he wasn't in school and why he wasn't in school. Now, we cut the typing there out, the text, but you can listen close and you can see what he says. And a teacher would know whether there's any truth to that or not. And that's why we left that, in case a teacher of his, like Sheila, would have picked up. In fact, Sheila picked up when he said he doesn't go to school. He's medically out of school or whatever. And Sheila said, whoa, wait a minute, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And Sheila
said medically, and he said, yeah. And then he proceeded to say what was going on with the child. But when a child is on homebound for like that, they'll send a teacher out to that child with lessons to keep that child caught up. And
How often, Sheila?
Once a week. They'll go out once a week and visit with the child.
Sheila and Fred of Hatfield Boyd Museum Adventures. These are the couple that found Joseph Couch weeks after that terrible shooting on I-75 exit 41. We know that exit quite well. And they found the body in literally on YouTube Live. So, they were aware of the situation. For the viewers, that they became aware of the case of missing Jayden and mobilized and got in their vehicle and traveled a few hours and went out there. And this is their footage of them. That's the house where the mom and the stepdad claim that Jayden vanished out of the middle, during the middle of the night hours. And they were out there searching. So
as far as I know, we're the only two that's actually talked to them. They've not talked to nobody, or that's what he told us. And
maybe their lawyer was telling them, don't talk. You open your mouth, loose lips sinks ships or something, keep your mouth shut. But at the same time, maybe they had the perception of a no body, no case. As long as there's no body, no case. But I mean, apparently, probably split the family apart, split the because they were together yesterday. There they are. See, you look on the back porch. There they are.
She was peeking around the car there to see, I think, where we were at.
You'll see him point. He points at us and looks 2 or 3 times. Then he shows her where we're at, or points in that direction. And finally, I hollered, and that's, we told him about the clothing, and he said, yeah, that's Jayden's, and the state police put them there. And I'm thinking, state police put clothing there, why is that? And
at one time he said he hadn't seen the clothes and stuff like that, but then how would he know that they were Jayden's if he hadn't seen them?
Yeah, he said he didn't know what was in that when we was over there. He said he didn't know what was in it. Law enforcement had put that there, but yet he tells us when I'm hollering there, he says that's Jayden's clothing. There's mold on them. There was no mold on the clothing, but why would law enforcement, if they did, just because he said it doesn't make it true, but why would they put clothing out there on the side of the road?
Yeah, exactly. Another thing too, as I said earlier, you know, these other kids that they have in the house, I'm not gonna have parents anymore, but might be in a blessing in disguise in a sense. You know, these kids could be in a better care and better position and more loving family. Hopefully they will.
Sure.
But also, what concerns me a little bit is if two people have been arrested, or either or both of them, well, you know, hopefully somebody goes back and gets that dog at that house. You know, there is a dog there, right?
Yeah, he'll wander down he'll wander to the neighbors.
Poor doggy. He says he'll wander to the neighbors. Poor little guy, though. That is so sad. That is sad. I agree. And, you know, I didn't realize it, but I think he was saying in Kentucky, I mean, it's okay for the dogs to kind of roam around free. They say at large, and I always think like, you know, those like criminal dogs or whatever, like at large. But yeah, they don't have laws against, you know, or that you don't have to have like leash, your dog's leash in that area. So I thought that was interesting. And then they talked about Josh's comment that Jayden was not in school for medical reasons, but you know, we remember that there was no Amber Alert issued because there was no medical reasons to alert. I suppose is according to what Trooper Matt Gayhart said. You know, so just putting that into perspective. It was the state senate. I live in Kentucky, and this is sad for my state. Oh, McAfee Gaming, thank you for being here. I'm so sorry. I agree. I think it is so sad for your state. And, you know, I think it's amazing all of the people that have come together, you know, for Jayden. I think he really, really needs everybody and their support. So, thanks, Hey Jude. It's just absolutely sad. I mean, I can't imagine even just having a neighbor kid that I know going missing. It's just absolutely sad. The whole state is grieving for this family and this little boy. Oh, McAfee Gaming, thank you. Yeah, it is. It's really, really sad. You know, and I don't know a terrible lot about the family. I don't. I just know that it has to be incredibly frustrating and sad and just absolutely horrible. Something you can't come back from. And, you know, I think everybody showing their love and support pushes for children to be found. If people don't do that, then nobody knows about it. Nobody cares, right? Because in my opinion, these two didn't want anybody to ever find out about it. They just didn't. They thought that if they just kind of lay low and, you know, mind their own business and say, oh, we have a lawyer, you know, people would stop. And I'm glad that people didn't, you know. Yes, the state senator, it's absolutely devastating. Perfectly a perfect boy, Mom. Yeah, and I didn't even know Court TV was covering this. I didn't see a whole lot of coverage on this case at all. I really didn't. And it was really difficult for me to find anything. Even when Mom and It Up and I did the panel, the very first panel that we did was on the second day, and it was really hard to find anything, and really short clips. You know, so I'm just so glad they were able to find him, you know. Yeah, in the rural community they can, or the country. Yeah, and I would imagine people would pull together, but at this point, I think Joshua's in the clear. It looks to me like we may have, you know, just Felicia taking the fall for it. And maybe because Joshua was willing to say what she did, maybe they're not going to charge him. I don't know. But it's a Commonwealth in Kentucky, and that's the big difference. And I haven't had a chance to really research the laws there, or kind of how that would work. So, oh, thank you. C. Taylor says it was Kentucky Senator Brandon J. Storm. Okay. And I want to say I've actually heard that name before, but I bet you it was on a news clip or something like that, you know. But golly, yeah. And I mean, when a senator is going to come out and do that, that's really admirable, in my opinion. That's somebody that I would want in office. It's like, hey, we can't just let these kids poof disappear, because they don't. They just don't. You know, they just don't. The grandma dying breaks my heart too, Holly S. Oh my gosh. And, you know, for the grandma, because it sounds like she enjoyed, you know, being a caregiver and loving on the kids, but then just for the kids too, because I'm sure it's hard on Jayden's sisters as well. Losing grandma, having that transition, now they lost their brother. I mean, that's got to be completely devastating. Completely devastating. And then for the kids that were in the household, look, that trailer is not big, and I haven't looked it up because I don't want to kind of pry too much and stuff, but it looks like a small, maybe 2 or 3 bedroom. And, you know, trailers are kind of paper thin, right? Like you can hear everything. So I don't know. I just don't think it played out the way that they're saying it did. See, Taylor says, Kentucky Senator Brandon Storm was on court TV and mentioned that a constituent had told him about hearing the child in the car screaming, and that the person said he'd reported it. Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, because I mean, how scary is that to hear? I mean, I think it's a difference, like, especially parents and stuff, we can kind of decipher between, you know, like a fake cry, between, you know, a hurt cry, between, you know, the different types, and you know, it's definitely completely different cry if someone is like horrified or scared to death, or, you know, any of that kind of stuff. Oh gosh, I just wish that there could have been like some intervention sooner. McAfee Gaming says, I think when Sheila and Fred told them they was going to go where the grandma was buried, that when she came clean, they're waiting on the autopsy report before they decided what they're going to do. You know, I see that. I can see that being true. Yeah. And I can see that kind of playing out too, McAfee. And, you know, I really believe that. Like, after watching this, I'm like going, wow. So we have all these people that were kind of, you know, in the area. And then also Fine Summer too. No, sorry. Oh gosh. There's a couple of people that have their names Fine Summer, 1-800 TBI Find. Dang it. I'm terrible with names today. I don't know what's wrong with me. Either way, and I apologize. But they were talking about somebody had reported like a foul smell too. And I need to go back and watch that as well on the news app. I wrote it down, the news channel. And I have gibbets written down as well. But yeah, I'm thinking that is a very strong possibility that, you know, this pressure, right? Because I would be nervous as hell. I wouldn't even know what to do. I'd be like, oh my, you know, I would never think that somebody would think like that. But you know what's really interesting, you know, with Fred having all of the experience in law enforcement, you know, 40 years, it's like he kind of knows maybe the tendencies, right? And if we're looking at a mother, right, even if she's like a really bad mom, obviously, like Felicia, I can't stick up for her, you know? I mean, I've tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. But I can't. But I mean, even a bad mom is going to try to at least, you know, bury their child, or, you know, do something like that. So thinking about the grandmother and thinking about the connection there, and then also wondering that maybe that could have been the motive, you know, where she felt rejected and I didn't want you anyway, and it really could have gotten ugly, you know. Purely speculative, of course, because I think she is maintaining about the overdosing on the medication and it being accidental, you know, hence the manslaughter charge instead of murder or something. He lived with his grandma until she died, and it was a 3-bedroom trailer. Okay. So is the one that they live in right now, like in the Gross household. Is that a 3-bedroom too? Because that's what I was wondering. Because I was like, well, if it was 3 bedrooms, then they'd have 2 boys in one, 2 boys in the other, and the parents in the other, right? Just kind of speculating that, not to say that that's how they did it, but I was just kind of speculating that, you know, somebody would have been maybe rooming with Jayden, possibly. Pamela Roberts says people can find missing kids if they are not chased away like Chris Proudfoot, in my opinion. I agree with that. I agree. And I don't think there's anything wrong. Like, he was not rude to them, right? He went up to the house. He's like, hey, I'm going to search for Jayden. They were polite back to him. They were like, okay, sure, you know, knock yourself out. They knew he wasn't out there, you know, but I'm just saying, you know, so that's why they didn't worry about them searching the area. They're like, yeah, sure, go up into the hill and, you know, get nice and tired and see if you want to go down and search over by, you know, Canoe where we put them and stuff like that. You know, again, the body language was saying that they were being confident. So I'm thinking that maybe that was their mindset. Like, yeah, sure, go ahead, knock yourself out, see if he's out in the woods, you know, not realizing. And then again, I also don't know if they have ever watched, you know, Sheila and Fred, and, you know, but they did know about Joseph Couch because they told them, you know, right away. They're like, hey, we found Joseph Couch. And, you know, to me, again, I would probably drop down and say, thank you for looking for my son. I hope you find him too. I hope that, you know, thank you for being here. Like, but when you don't see that reaction and you see a mom that won't even look at you, oh, buddy, that screams. And then also, Pamela, you know, just like with Chris and Katie, yeah, they're threatening everything and they're mad, you know, and Fred's like, hey, that's a big red flag right there, you know, and that goes for any of them, not just even singling them out. It's just any of them in the case. And JLR had brought up Summer Wells, you know, I think twice within the interview. They're just not as familiar. I was really happy to know that they were familiar with Sebastian. Really happy, especially knowing kind of the background and how they do look for these things, right? Micro expressions, body language, you know, all the things that we look at. McAfee says because if she wouldn't have come clean, that they were going to go back the next day to look, in that area, and they would have found him. I believe that too, McAfee. I do. And I think the cherry on top might have been, you know, old Sparky, the DP, like, look, you know, consider this, you know, because if they find out that you're lying and you lie to the bitter end, you might just get that DP. And it's my understanding that they'd still use, you know, the electric chair in Kentucky, you know, which again would, I don't know. I wouldn't want to play that hand of poker and see how that outcome was, just in case I didn't win it, you know. Oh, Time Chat Cafe, thank you so much for gifting a Lady Freedom's Raw Narratives membership. If you received a membership from Town Chat Cafe, please say thank you. And thanks, Town Chat. I forgot you were making dinners and things like that for your brother. Aw, thank you. That is so sweet of you. So very sweet of you. Okay, the trailer his mom lived in, 3-bedroom. Thank you, McAfee. Yeah, because I was wondering. So yeah, they may have had it set up to where, you know, the parents are in one and then the kids are in the other. I just hope that the other 3 boys didn't have to be traumatized by whatever happened. But if he's screaming and crying, oh my. And, you know, I don't know their situation. Like if they had a babysitter that came over and they did something with Jayden not in the house, because I still can't believe the 9 o'clock time frame. So they're saying the last time we saw Jayden was 9 p.m., but they wouldn't have had time to do all of that, right? Like find out that they, you know, if we're believing her story, you know, find out that he overdosed and then, you know, put him in the tote. This is awful, guys. Awful, awful. Trigger warning. You know, put this baby in the tote and then took him to wherever they buried him, which was in Canoe, near his grandmother's home where, you know, where he grew up. You know. Yes, thanks, Town Chat. The computer fund, I know. I know. This way I won't have to load all the clips in, right? We could like pause them and stuff. You know, it might make for longer lives or just, you know, like more discussion. So, but I'm fine with it. Um, Goodbye, Pamela. Thank you. I know I'm going to have to hop off here too because I'm going to be working on a video for summer with the new age progression because I have a lot of pictures of her. She's a beautiful girl, and I really want to get something out for that. I think it's really a big deal when they put these age progressions out. I want to say they put one out for summer. Jude, you might have to help me out. Was it in 2023? Was the last age progression? I have them all. I do, and I want to kind of put them into a video and stuff like that. But I need to pick out some really pretty music for her, and it's just going to take a little bit of time, but it'll be well worth it. Just to spread more awareness about summer. So I'm trying to think though, because this would have been her 10-year-old age progression. So she went missing when she was 6, and then we have those photos. But one of my favorite ones, I will say, there's a couple. I have a couple favorites of summer, but one of my favorite ones is this one, not the barrel, but this one right here, because I think her hair is just so cute, like for her little face. Like that is just the cutest hairstyle for her. And of course, in the barrel, we see where they took her hair, you know. But she's just a pretty little princess, and we're gonna get something nice out for her as well. So thank you. Hey Jude, I'm like, dang it, I don't know when it was, but I was like thinking about it. I had the date too, and it was because I busted Chris Proudfoot out with it. And I said, oh no, that wasn't, right after Sebastian went missing that her age progression came out. That was before, but I couldn't remember when. McAfee, I don't know if Summer will ever be found. I really hope so. I know there was like a lot of hoopla around like a new lead, or that they were going to be searching the Wells property again. I just don't think that they would have put her that close, but they could have. I mean, it just kind of depends. And I know they had like dogs all over that area. And another thing is too, is they could have put her someplace and then brought her back. But I really think that she could have been trafficked because of all of the nasty stuff with her dad, Don. And I think I just think that that's a really strong possibility for her. And then some of the things they would say about her, like, basically things to the effect of that we're going to see her at the end of times, and things like that. Or, when we go to heaven, we'll see her and things like that, which, typically parents don't like to come to that conclusion. I'm not saying they don't, but I think they hold on to hope as long as they can. And that's what I've seen like patterns of anyway. But everybody's different. And some people, I know that like even Shanann Watts' mom, Mrs. Rusek, she said that she felt her daughter leave the earth. And I've heard moms say that before. I had a feeling and I knew before they were notified, kind of a thing. So I don't know. Oh, okay. Thank you. Holly S says, I think Justin said 1,000 square feet. So small, like usually they'll have like a big living room area, kitchen, and then you'll have like, the laundry hookups, a bathroom, and the bedroom. Bedroom on one side, you might have 2 on one, and then the master. So yeah, typically they're not, terribly big. And I mean, really, since there was all boys, it could have worked out fine if they would have had bunk beds or something like that. And I never try to knock anybody who lives, rurally or, thank you, Hey Jude. Thank you. Rurally or people that don't have, that aren't rich or even middle class. I don't like to call people poor, but no, that's okay. And when you're 33 years old and you've got 3 kids, it's hard. These times are hard right now. I can't imagine. Hey Jude says it was in June of 2023 was the last. I knew it was like 2023, but I was like, was it what month? Thank you so much. Thank you. Because yeah, so she would have been 8. So okay, so yeah, because they do them every 2 years. See, that was we were wondering about Sebastian. When he could get an age progression. And I think a lot of people were wondering about that because of them putting out all of the younger pictures and things like that for Sebastian. I think people were kind of like, okay, let's get some sort of, picture where he looks a little bit older. But I think we got some good ones. I mean, especially from the Texas Roadhouse, in my opinion. And really, that was the one that we could have had, the TBI done a better job. In my opinion, we would have been circulating that one. Sad that it has to come from the surveillance. Yeah, I think so. I think maybe, McAfee, do you think a family member had something to do with her missing? I do. And the reason why is because of CPS involvement. Yeah. And because I also believe that Summer was brutally and regularly sexually assaulted by her father, by family, by friends, like people that would go to these parties that they would have. I do. And I do know that Summer was talked to by a social worker and may have said something, but we won't know, because all of that stuff is closed off. And so nobody would ever really know. But after they left, I fear that maybe, they made Summer tell, and she's only 6 and, she just, yeah, I think they did. I think they did because I think that she might have told them something that they, or they were fearful that the next time they talked to her, she would spill the beans or, yeah, unfortunately, And I wish that parents would never do this to their kids, right? Like it would be unimaginable or, impossible. It would never happen, Jude, yeah. Hey, Jude thinks so too. Yeah. Yeah. And, it's based on all the research too, right? Hey, Jude, because you've done so much research on the case. I dove in and you were helping me get more research, right? Because again, I followed like the mainstream news coverage, and then I would be like watching Dr. Phil episode or this mainstream stuff. But when it came to YouTube, I wasn't as aware. And I mean, like Don had done interviews that I had never heard some of the things that came out of his mouth. And when we did our Father's Day show here, I still couldn't believe that. I was like, he said this and they did nothing, I think he had. I think he did too. Yeah, I think they're responsible, and either they did something so she couldn't talk anymore, or they gave her to somebody, like trafficked her out, sold her, and then that way, again, she couldn't talk, and then it was just like, oh, she's just gone, like Candace. Oh, she's just gone. She's gone, And this is her age progression, by the way, and she's just so beautiful. And it's not that I don't like it, but of course I was just critiquing it. But yeah, that is her 10-year-old age progression. So just absolutely sad, because again, she should be living her life and dancing around and not being filmed by creeps, in my opinion. Dr. Harry says elimination. Yeah, hey Jude, and that's a good way to put it, right? Because they're eliminating a problem that they think that they're perceiving to be, and it's always the parents' problem. It's never these kids. Oh my gosh, because she's just so precious. And again, anybody would love to have taken her and, bought her the pretty dresses and let her wear her hair long and again, let her dance and not put her into a nasty light like that. Like, some of the things Dawn said, oh gosh, it's like beyond a cringe. It's like cringe, puke, cringe, puke, 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 puke. You know, um, yeah, she did show signs in some of the pictures. I agree, Holly S. And there are a lot of like really weird like bedroom pictures that you see of like Dawn, Candace, and Summer. Yeah. And then, knowing that the boys' bunk beds were like right when you walk in, but it was kind of like a big flop house where, or trap house, whatever you want to call it, where there's just people in and out, and I mean, I can't even say with a straight face that the boys weren't sexually abused, in my opinion. Thank you, couponing. I'll see you tomorrow or next time. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for the green hearts. I really appreciate you. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here. Jude says, I love this progressed picture. I think that's exactly how she looks. See, Jude, the only thing now that I'm looking back, because I saw another picture, and it was a side-by-side, and I was like, oh, this is good, right? Because I hadn't had a chance to, like, look at it side-by-side, but I'm looking at her features, and I'm thinking, oh, is that Summer? And then when I look back, I'm like, actually, it is really good. Her cheekbones, if they were just a little bit higher, like in this one, they're kind of more straight, but I thought, and just bear with me, guys, and this is only because I'm like, I pay attention to this facial features, like for drawing and stuff, and Jude drew a beautiful picture of Summer too. I want to put in the video, but like, see how they're like a little rounded. Oh my gosh, she's just so cute. And I know she's not smiling really big in the age progression, but look at her little round cheeks. I don't know. Oh my goodness, she just I know, Jude, but I think this is better than the other one. I like it better than the first one. Dang, I wish I had more pictures. Oh well, here's poor baby. Now this one looks very close. Now that I'm looking at this one though, Jude, see, that's why I shouldn't be so picky. But like, now that one looks like how she would look if she was just smiling just a little bit, like that one. I don't know. I don't know. I always hope and pray that she's out there one day and they're gonna find her, and she is so beautiful. Hey Jude. And it's like, I just hope that they find her one day, and maybe even if she doesn't know, hey, I'm Summer Wells, because maybe she's had so much trauma or something, or maybe she, if she's only 10 now, and these sickos, have her somewhere and, are doing whatever horrible things we could all imagine. I'm just hoping they find her, and like, because every time they bust a big ring, I'm always thinking, oh my God, is Summer going to be part of the people that are recovered from that ring? Always. I always think about that with her, because of Dawn and Candace. And, Candace, in my opinion, was very, using grooming behavior towards Hunter, giving him liquor, giving him, vapes he wasn't supposed, he's not old enough for, things like that. Yeah, I know, Holly S. Holly S says it angers me. They didn't even fix up the home and make it livable for those kids. Well, yeah, and there's like nothing to play outside, at this house, in my opinion. You know, and they have plenty of land. I mean, they could have a pool up. They could have, you know, all kinds of stuff for them outside. But you don't see any of that. And, you know, maybe it's out back, you know. I know, she's so adorable, right, Holly S? Oh my gosh. Yeah, and I'm just so glad that they're keeping up with it every 2 years. You know, kudos to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children for keeping on top of Summer's case. And also there was a not an update, but there was you know, a caption that came with the age progression. Um, so yeah, she would have been a great beauty, Scranton. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, she's definitely a princess, and I love how they gave her the longer hair in the picture too. That was one, you know, great thing that I loved about that too. So, but it's just, yeah, I just always think maybe one day. McAfee says, I believe the kids under 12 do not get up in the middle of the night and walk off. Something happened to them. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. Um, Yeah, and then also just like with surveillance cameras and things, it would be hard now in an area like this, with, you know, internet that's not the best, you know, and things like that. I can see, you know, where they wouldn't have surveillance in the immediate area. But yeah, that's what makes it so much harder too, because we live in the digital age. So, you know, everything's being tracked and cell phone pings and things like that. But in the rural areas, it's harder. And I think that was, you know, another thing contributing to Summer's case. I do. Yeah, Don has skills and he could build. Right, exactly, exactly. Um, it looked like they did like a pretty good job, except for like that little basement weird, you know, dungeon thing that they had. But they really could have made the house nice. You know, they could have added on. They had plenty of room. They still have plenty of room. I agree. Yeah, and then they only had that one little lonely swing out there, but yet they had three boys and one little girl. That's weird, you know. Um, it's a hell of a life for those kids, you know. And I have to agree with Fred when he says, you know, that there's worse things on this earth for these kids. Ugh. It breaks my heart, though. Um, you know, because I don't want to accept that necessarily, even though I know it's true. And I think that if Fred and Sheila would not have went, I think Jayden would still be going on. Yeah, I think so too. I really believe that. Yeah, my hat's off. You know, and even the person that called in the strange, you know, smell over there too. And I haven't watched that; it's just been alleged, but I have no reason not to, you know, believe our friend here. So, you know, but I wanted to see it. I'm like, send it to my email, because sometimes, you know, it'll take me forever to find something, and then before I know it, I'm like, oh gosh, now I gotta, you know, now I gotta watch it. And also when people send me clips, or excuse me, send me lives and stuff, I always ask for a timestamp. Like, do you have a good timestamp for me? Because, like, you know, I'll be really, really busy, especially now trying to fit the two shows in and stuff. But I'll get used to it. It's just like, you know, getting used to all of it. You know, because I'm kind of used to just doing the one, but it's all good. But I think uh, I agree with that, McAfee. Yeah, if they hadn't come out there and look, they talk to these people, right? And nobody really has, in my opinion. You know, I'm sure the neighbors have talked to them, the people that they know and stuff. Yeah, the police officers, some of the search and rescue teams may have talked to them, but to have someone who has as much experience as Fred does, and he's just, you know, nonchalantly saying, and then you have, you know, his beautiful wife Sheila, who looks like she can be a really sweet person, but, you know, she means business, and my hat's off to ladies like that. You know, she told her, she's like, we're gonna find him, you know, and they pinpointed the location. And I mean, again, I would not want that to be me. I'd probably confess to the two of them, you know. And then also just like one thing that I can't wrap my mind around with a lot of these cases, and this one in particular, is like how, again, these parents couldn't just be like, thank you so much for, doing this for me. Like, you have more wherewithal than I do, whatever it is. The police asked me to stay here in case he comes back. So thank you for searching for me. Like, we just don't see that. We just don't see it. And it's odd and, rude on their part, in my opinion, because, but, I thought it was so interesting whenever JLR was like, hey, do you ever get like mad at, or did you get mad when you realized that they were lying straight to your face? And he said, no. He goes, because this is why we're doing this, and they're doing God's work, in my opinion. They are. And they're not asking for anything in return besides, to please, please listen to us and believe us, So I'm like, hey, gotcha. And, and I do. And I think it's really smart with the buzzards, especially if you have a location and you see that they're over there. Yeah, because then that way you can check it out. It's just so difficult. It's like a needle in a haystack sometimes, and especially when these people had guilty knowledge the whole time. But they said, no, we're not mad. We just wanted to find Jayden, and they did, in my opinion. They helped out a lot. Especially, if we think about 2 calls coming in about the same area, and then, the police go over. And I'll tell you, McAfee, my thing too is I think they don't want us YouTubers to get a big head. So I think I don't think they like admitting that we can, help, but because I know that it's gotta be overwhelming to be a detective or, just any member of the, department, when there's constant calls and it's chaotic and this is a high profile case and everybody's calling in. You might have tips that people are like, are you a lunatic? Like, this is a missing kids case and you're calling in about this, or you're telling me about that. But again, even the smallest thing, it can seem crazy to the person who's calling, but it could be the thing that cracks the case. And so, because we don't know, there's a lot of things that they don't tell us. And that's smart, because that way when they do get that bit of information, they're like, oh, well, you know something that nobody else knows. And how would you know that, but it takes a lot of, it takes listening skills on their part. It does. But I think sometimes, and that's why I had the title tonight, because I think we need to, empower ourselves as we the people and stand up together. I do. I really believe that. I think that all of us putting our heads together, like sometimes people will come in here and say things to me and I'm like, wait, what? I never thought of that. Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Or, okay, yeah. Or maybe I might think, okay, I don't know, maybe. And then later on, okay, now I can see that. Yeah, okay. And it's just like getting that one little extra piece of information that can make things change. And that's what I'm so hoping for in these cases that aren't solved. Like, just let's find that one mistake that was made by the perpetrators. Let's find the littlest piece that can connect them. Oh, that's all it takes, and especially when we have no body cases, those are really disheartening, because we know that kids don't just vanish and poof. People don't do that. They're somewhere out there. Yes. Yeah. Well, all these cases are so important. They just are. And, a lot of times it can be, so rewarding too, to be like, okay, I figured that out. That's really, awesome, and things like that. Or watching someone else piece it together and be like, wow, that's it. That's how it was for me with the 3 AM Lights video. When I saw Mob Crew do it, I was like, oh, like all the little pieces in my head were coming together. I'm like, oh, that's a puzzle piece that I was missing. Okay, now I got it. That makes sense. But again, I think it's really important, especially for the detectives, to always keep an open mind and not have that tunnel vision, because I think that's what really stumps people too, because they'll think, well, I talked to the parents, they're cooperative, they let me search the house, blah, blah, blah. But even so, maybe they're doing that because they're guilty, and they're just allowing for you to do that kind of stuff because, they don't want to look suspicious. Some of these people are really, really good liars. And then also, like, what Fred was saying about the body language too, and Sheila was saying yes, they were very cool and almost, too confident, or, overly confident. So figured out, no, I've been telling people the mother had done something to him. Yeah, I think anybody that kind of looks at the case at first glance would think that, especially knowing the mother's history, if she didn't have that type of a history and CPS was never there, um, and maybe say, even say she had addiction issues back then, but she cleaned her act up, I would think, less of her doing something like that. But just knowing that it was recent, that she kept on having babies and she wasn't taking care of them, and poor little Jayden. And I really think that he may have said something, because little kids, when they're hurt, sometimes they're bold and they'll be like, I hate you, and they'll run away, or something like that. So what if he said something like, you're not my parents, I want my real mom, which is his grandma, or something. I don't know what he referred to her as, but I want my grandma, she's my mom, or something. And that could have hurt her psychologically or whatever, or in a drug rage, in my opinion. It could have really went badly for him. And same thing with this jackass over here, don't talk to your mother that way, I'll beat it out of you, kind of like Proudfoot. And, that's one thing, they say for people that do spank, don't ever do it when you're angry, but I don't agree with it. But I understand that is a form of discipline, as long as the kids aren't like getting hurt, and I mean, I was, as a kid too. Look how I turned out. No, I'm just kidding. McAfee says, well, if you go back and watch videos, she says that the mother never made eye contact with her. Yes. Yeah. And I think that was the really big sign for her too, because she was already Sheila, that is, was already kind of thinking like, oh, this is weird. And then when she said, we're going to find that boy. And I think that was like kind of like warning her, like, hey, just so you know, we're going to find him. And yeah, that was like a gangsta move by Miss Sheila over there. That was really awesome. I loved hearing that, because I thought, ooh, if it was me and I was guilty, oh, that would have really got my goat. I'd have been worried as hell then, among other reasons, Holly S says, I feel like the police don't take kids seriously anymore. No, and I don't know that they listen to them. It's like, oh, are you just trying to get out of this or that, chores or whatever? It's like, no, I know. Well, and Sebastian tried to tell as well, in my opinion. She looks like the bride of Chucky. She does, Adam Forever 21. She does. Could you imagine poor Jayden going from, like, his grandmother, like, was a very, she has a very warm smile. And I mean, I'm just going to put it out there. I was praying that we weren't going to find out something horrible about Grandma. Now, Grandma is the one in the red. And I'm sitting there thinking, please have let Jayden had at least one person, adult, right? Because I don't doubt that his sisters love him and stuff like that. But one adult that was there for him, that loved him, that, treated him well. So, and she does. She looks like she's a warm, inviting person, like, somebody like you'd like to give a hug to, and I'm a hugger. I know some people aren't. But she does. She looks warm and inviting. And then all the way over, in the orange, is his mom, who looks like, meaner than a snake. And again, I think that's being ate up from the drugs. I really do. Hey, Gigi. I really do. I think that's from being ate up with drugs. Because a 33-year-old, and that's got to be a younger picture than her even so. I think that's her in 2018, as a matter of fact. So, I mean, she wouldn't be looking that rough at all if she wasn't on substances, possibly math or, Yeah. McAfee says, well, what got me is the clothes. And he kept changing the story and the dog on the front porch, because if a kid walks off in the middle of the night, the dog would have followed him. That's such a good point, McAfee. And, I'm not sure if I missed it or didn't write it down this time, but I do remember that being said when I was editing the interview here. And yes, Fred was like, that, he had asked Joshua, Mr. Gross, he said, if he had just walked off the front porch, wouldn't the dog have followed him? And I think it's the truth. And we also have that element in Sebastian Rogers and Summer Wells's case, like how come the dogs weren't barking? Because for example, when Chris McDonough drove up with Candace to take a look at the property, I mean, all the dogs came out and started barking and, not necessarily mean, but they were alerting and they were, protecting their property and stuff. And so, yeah, I agree. The dogs are a big deal because a dog would follow. Absolutely. Or start barking, in my opinion, and wake up everybody in the house, or at least, one of the little ones, one of the kids. Yeah, Holly, I don't think they wanted him either. And, I'm just wondering what the dynamic was. Like, say that the aunt was saying, hey, I'm going to take him. And maybe she did try to, because see, that's another thing that I wish would have happened, is that maybe she could have checked up, but I don't know what kind of relationship the two of them had, the Samantha and Felicia, that is. But she did say, it's been alleged that Samantha tried to call and talk to Jayden on July 3rd and then sometime around July 3rd and 4th and wasn't able to get a hold of him, and I would have went over to the house that day if it was me. Good to see you, Gigi. You know what I mean? I just would have, just to check on him, just to say, hey, I would have made something up. I would have, made him cookies or something and brought it over. Hey, I just want to let you know I made a bunch of 4th of July cookies for the kids or whatever. I would have too, or I would have said, Jayden forgot this. I forgot to drop this off with him, something like that, just to peep the scene and see what's going on over there. Especially if you can't get a hold of the kid, because that's a huge red flag. And maybe because I know these cases and stuff, but that's how Harmony Montgomery was actually. It took a little bit too long, but I'm not trying to blame Crystal for that. But if it wasn't for her mom reporting her missing, but the last time that she spoke with her mom was at Easter time, which is what was alleged during the trial. And, after that, she couldn't get a hold of them, but he was also playing games with her, like, not letting her talk to Harmony and things like that, which is very common, or we've seen that before, yeah. So I would have just really looked at that as a red flag. And I would have went over. I also, and I know that people do homeschooling, and hey, I know that there's some really great homeschool programs out there, but that's always a red flag to me too. Is like when they say, oh, they were in school, but then they started homeschooling, because then it's like there's no one for them to tell. They're cooped up in the house. As long if at least if they go to school, they can say something, or maybe somebody might see something and say something. But when these poor kids are out there, with no teachers. But then again, too, Sheila had mentioned that if there was a medical reason for Jayden to be doing classes at home, that a teacher would come out every week and check on his, growth education and help out. So, I mean, it's just hard to believe. It's hard to believe. And then also there was no documented documented medical history for Jayden. And so that's why they said they didn't put an endangered Amber Alert out, because, he could have in theory made it back to the house and there wasn't, medications that needed to be taken and things like that. And then next thing we know, we hear that Felicia says that she, gave him too much medicine. Well, whose medicine was it? Because again, that points in my opinion to intent, because if you're giving him medicine that doesn't belong, to him, or your medicine or somebody else's in the household's medicine, to me, you should understand that you're not a doctor to administer that. But then again, I don't know. Just, kind of my thoughts. Oh, thank you, Holly S., for the super chat. She says, thank you for being a voice for these kids. Oh, thanks, Holly S. I appreciate you for being here so much, and thank you for that. Yeah, because I couldn't do it without you guys, in here listening about the cases. I know it's so hard. It is. Well, before he lived with his grandma, he lived with his aunt, and that has the two sisters. Yes. Yeah, McAfee, thank you. I know. And, I can't imagine what the girls are going through, having lost their grandma, having lost their brother. Gosh, I just feel bad for them. I wonder if Samantha had a bad feeling and that's why she called. That's a good point, Holly S. That's a really good point. I wonder what made her call on July 3rd. Because I'm guessing it was, maybe he had been there for a week or so, or, week and a half, and maybe she was just calling to check on him, or maybe she did have a bad feeling. Who knows? Maybe she did try to reach out before, and maybe they didn't answer that time, and so she tried again. I don't know. Justin thinks the COVID shutdowns and money families were given was bad for the Wells, and I agree. Yeah, well, Holly S., that's a great point that Justin made too. Yeah, I agree with that too, because there was even a lot of talk during the pandemic that like families that were all cooped up, in the same house together and things like that were having a lot of issues, right? Because the kids were, running around wild. They had all this homeschooling that they didn't sign up for. I'm talking about the parents, overwhelming, but then also stuck in the house with your abusers, right? And that goes for the kids. That was for the moms. I mean, yeah, they were stuck, right? And isolated. And I agree with that, And then the money, and then you're bored, and then people were doing like, oh, we're, doing all kinds of different challenges and stuff like that. So, I think you're absolutely right. I think Justin's absolutely right on that. And then the interview she had, she said that something is not right. Yeah, they both were saying that, right? They're like, something isn't right in this case. That was Shy that said something's not right in this case. Even when they interviewed Shy this last time, she didn't say anything. She really was like kind of staring off into the distance, and yeah, I mean, it's got to be devastating. It's got to be devastating. And they also said that he doesn't like the dark and that he doesn't like bugs. So I was thinking again that he would have, taken the main road out, up the holler, right? Because if he would have just went down the holler, he wouldn't have made it very far into where it dead ends. So, he would have had to have gone up the road if he was trying to leave out of the holler and, get away from the trailer there. So, that's just my thoughts. But then again, he didn't wander off, and drug money. Yes. Holly S., big time. That's how I was talking about. I was like all the challenges, but I remember people like making, drinks and stuff like that. But even still, sometimes people don't get violent until they're like drinking or something like that. And I'm not blaming it on that. I think, you know, it might come out or something. But my thing is, how long before they reported it was, yeah, he killed, is my thought. Yeah, I know, McAfee. I'm wondering the same thing. You know, and a lot of people are wondering about the last proof of life, especially when we hear that the kids were coached into what to say, you know, which usually you can get around those around that in forensic interviewing, you know, where they sit down with the kids and things like that. But it's still scary because the kids could be scared, and now they're, you know, their brother's missing and they're afraid to talk. You know, all they know is that he was crying and screaming last time they saw him or something, you know, allegedly, or, you know, hypothetically. I never once thought that either, Little Miss Sharon. I don't know what it is, but it's something that, like, a feeling that I had. I'm like, I just don't think he would have, especially whenever Maman had sent me the video of the ants. And I'm like, oh, they're saying that he wouldn't have done that. They're saying it's weird. They're saying he doesn't like the dark, you know, and all of that. So yeah, I didn't think so either, even though I know that there wasn't probably a good chance that there's a lot of surveillance around the holler and stuff. So, wow. Oh yeah, Holly S. Good point. Remember they had lost, what, 7 other kids to CPS? And see, I haven't even looked into how many kids Joshua has either. So that's something to keep in mind, definitely. You know, and I'm just wondering if the aunt was overwhelmed. Is she gonna, you know, what's gonna happen to the girls? You know, maybe she understands now. I don't know. I heard around the streets that they're trying to give the remaining kids back. Oh, really? Man, my heart and my prayers go out to the kids. Really. Yeah, I don't like the dark or bugs either. And you know, if I was to take out at night, in that area, I would definitely stick to the main road until I got, you know, someplace that was more well lit. But like, they didn't say he took a flashlight. They didn't say that he was, you know, that he took, you know, his things with him. And at 10 years old, I think that he would have, you know, even if he was going to see grandma, he would have brought something to drink. He would have brought something to eat, you know. And I know we were speculating about a cell phone. I don't think he had a cell phone, or it sounds like he had the totes, you know, that were brought with him. So, my goodness. All right, guys. Well, we will get back into this tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to try to do something around, I'm going to try to do an earlier show, because I'm going to try to, you know, wash my face, brush my teeth early, and get some sleep, and then get into an earlier show. So probably sometime around like maybe 2:00 Eastern, which would be 1 Central. So, but thank you all so much for being here. Definitely share out Summer's age progression photo, please, pretty please. Social media and anywhere, you know, even with your friends. Same thing goes with Sebastian Rogers. Pretty please. Let's say prayers for Jayden's family. Let's say prayers for the rest of the kids that are left behind in this situation, because they can't be feeling good right now. You know, they just can't be. And love you, Hey Jude. Yes, I'm going to do an earlier show. And yeah, like if you see something, say something. Just always be on the lookout for these strange behaviors, because maybe we can prevent this somewhat. I don't know. It's just so hard. Thank you, Little Miss Sharon. Thank you so much. Love the hearts. You guys are awesome. Thank you. All right. I will see you tomorrow afternoon.